Forge Master of Fuses. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Book List. This remark also successfully made Yin Yulan noticed by Jiffin. Although Bai Jiffin is the head of the pharmacy department of the Alliance Military Academy, his reputation is not prominent, and his brilliance is almost overshadowed by the brilliance of the deputy director Tao Bixi. But can he sit firmly in the position of the head of the pharmacy department of the Alliance Military Academy and make Tao Bixi willing to help him? Would it be an ordinary person? Yin Yulan couldn't help but be more vigilant about this director Bai, but still put on a look of sudden enlightenment, and said gratefully, "Thank you, Director Bai. I will go to the library to look for it after the disbandment." Bai Jiffin smiled and waved his hand. "I just said it casually, it's not worth it." Yin Yulan is not used to saying polite words. Bai Jiffin asked her not to be polite, and she took it seriously. After sitting restlessly for a while, she secretly sent a message behind everyone's back. After a while, the monster Yin Jiu from the Mecha Driving Department who was inseparable from her ran over with an encyclopedia of interstellar animals published by Industrial Press. Seeing the book and Yin Yulan's almost laughing face, the expressions of the seniors around were hard to describe. Director Bai Jiffin likes to recommend all kinds of books to students. More than 80% of the students in the Department of Pharmacy have been recommended the Interstellar Plant Encyclopedia, published by the Union Bookstore, and the Interstellar Animal Encyclopedia published by the Industrial Press. But only Yin Yulan laughed like a fool when she saw the Interstellar Animal Encyclopedia, published by the Industrial Press. Did she find that the Interstellar Animal Encyclopedia published by the Industrial Press was 50% thicker than the one in her hand? Is this girl stupid? Yin Yulan seemed not to notice the strange looks around her. She took the Interstellar Animal Encyclopedia, which was thicker than a brick, and read it bit by bit. Yin Chu beside her seemed to have noticed something, and arched his hands to Bai Jiffin, saying, "Director Bai, my Lanlin likes to be serious. If there is anything that is not done well, please take care of it and try to say it clearly." Bai Jiffin smiled and nodded. The most important thing for a scholar is to have a kind of obsession. Classmate Yin Yulan is very good like this. Yin Chu touched Yin Yulan's head and smiled. "I think she is very good like this." It was rare for someone to agree with what he said, and it seemed that he was sincere, so Bai Jiffin was very satisfied. "I have a list of books. I wonder if you are interested." Yin Chu shook his head. "I am a mecha pilot. What interest can I have in your big books?" However, this girl should be very happy when she sees it. Bai Jiffin was stunned for a moment, and looked up and down at Yin Chu. "I was wrong. I can take out the list of books for pharmacy. But for mecha piloting, I may only have to find Dan Bailey." "Dan Bailey? The bookworm in the mecha casting department? Then I'll have to trouble Director Bai." Bai Jiffin laughed. "No problem. No problem." After a while, both book lists were in the hands of Yin Chu. The first thing Yin Chu did after getting the book list was to clear the school library. From then on, there were two more Yin students, and the student Zio, who was led astray in the school library. Bai Jiffin and Shan Bailey were very pleased about this. For the two Yin students, the book lists of Bai Jiffin and Shan Bailey were not too difficult. They were more in the attitude of checking for omissions and filing in the gaps. But for Zio, it was really life-threatening. Seeing the two academic masters finishing the wide variety of books on the book list at an extraordinary speed, Zio really tried his best not to leave too many behind. The three students were so obsessed with studying that they forgot about a pharmacy exchange conference, Pengkayan, work days and holidays. When the two Yin students finally raised their heads from their books, the exam season was already approaching. Fortunately, they were really reading books and kept in touch, so they did not lose their reputation as academic masters. Zio, who had worked hard for half a year and lost a lot of weight, finally squeezed into the top 10. The little girl was so happy that she hugged the two Yin students and turned around several times. When the two of them met Pengkayan at the other end of the port, they remembered this president who came from the sky and had a special fragrance. But why did this young Master Peng not go back to his capital star and run to Lingsu Star region? Yin Yulan couldn't help but pull Yin Chu's sleeve, and Yin Chu patted her hand, signaling her to be patient. Old Master Li Bangsha didn't let them have too much contact with Pengkayan, so they had to suppress their curiosity. It's just that this pretend game may need to be extended indefinitely. Thinking about his 2 factories and the piles of documents during the winter vacation, Yin-Chu couldn't help but rub his back teeth. It's better to have less trouble than more. Curiosity kills the cat. The more you do, the more mistakes you make. Yin-Chu couldn't help laughing out loud when listening to Yin Yulan's mumbling. Lanlin, how can you be so cute? Yin Yulan couldn't help rolling his eyes at her, and thinking about his silly look just now, he couldn't help laughing. The laughter of the 2 little girls was not loud, but it successfully attracted Peng Kaidan's attention. Peng Kaidan, who had been worried all the time, only then noticed the existence of the 2 little sisters. But the first class and economy class were far apart, and Peng Kaidan couldn't bring himself to say hello to them through the crowd. Therefore, after getting off the starship, the reserved student Peng Kaidan deliberately waited for a while before greeting the 2 students Yin who came slowly, especially Yin Yulan. Student Yin, long time no see. I finally came to your territory, shouldn't you do your best to be a good host? Yin Yulan tugged at Yin Chu's sleeve, a little embarrassed. It's not convenient. Student Peng Kaidan, who was rarely rejected, immediately looked gloomy, and a faint fragrance began to float on his body again. Seeing that the situation was not right, Yin Chu quickly tried to smooth things over. Lanlin can't speak. Please forgive me, Mr. Peng. Lanlin and I are both orphans. After the dean left, we were taken in by the Blackwater Army, and we lived and ate in the Blackwater Army. First, we can't take people back without the consent of the higher-ups. Second, even if you enter the Blackwater Army camp, men and women are different, and they must be separated. After listening to Yin Chu's explanation, Peng Kaidan's expression finally looked a little better. I will take care of this problem myself, so you don't have to worry about it. Chapter 227 What a coincidence. Comrade Qin Mian, the old father who had been waiting for his daughter, narrowed his eyes when he saw the scene from afar. How did the 2 girls get together with that brat? It seemed that they knew each other. I wonder how familiar they were with each other? I hope they were not too familiar with each other. Qin Mian walked over quickly and greeted several people. Mr. Peng. Lanlin. Kiu. Just 2 words poured a bucket of cold water on the passionate heart of Yin Yulan. Yin Chu squeezed Yin Yulan's hand, and greeted Qin Mian with a smile. Hello, Uncle Qin. Yin Yulan could only whisper, hello, Uncle Qin. Qin Mian reached out and patted the 2 people's heads, and smiled at Peng Kaidan. I have received the news that Master Peng will come soon, and I thought it would take some time, but I didn't expect it to be so coincidental today. Peng Kaidan spoke to the 3 people in front of him, and smiled meaningfully. The Blackwater Army is famous for its strict military discipline, but I never thought that it also has the virtue of doing good things without leaving a name. Qin Mian silently took back the big hand on his daughter's head, and said with a smile, it's just a few small things. Not worthy of Master Peng's praise. When the Blackwater Army accepted the orphans from the orphanage, they were all grown up. Most of them are studying in various places, and only a few young ones are still working part-time in the base. If Master Peng is interested, I can arrange for you to meet. However, most children from orphanages are timid and withdrawn, so Master Peng may have to bear more. Peng Kaidan glanced at Yin Yulan and agreed with Qin Mian's words. Most children from orphanages are timid and withdrawn, but he did not comment on Qin Mian's other words. However, since Qin Mian dared to show it to him, he must have swept the tail clean and found no mistakes. Then it seems that there is no point. Birth dates are not very important, as long as we get along. I think I get along well with classmate Yin Yulan. Not to mention the same major. I finally met him on the first day of my transfer. I finally arrived at classmate Yin's territory. I'd like to ask classmate Yin to be a good host. There shouldn't be any problem. Qin Mian laughed. This is a matter between you kids. It's not appropriate to ask an old man like me, Peng Kaidan said indifferently, but classmate Yin Chu told me that they both live and eat in the Blackwater Army. Without your consent, they can't take anyone back. Even if they take people back, they must be separated by gender. Qin Mian nodded. This is not only the rule of the Blackwater Army, but also the rule of Marshal Song's Expeditionary Army and the Central Army of the Capital Star. Master Peng is a guest from afar. It's okay for him to live in the base or in a hotel outside. However, I can only arrange Master Peng in the male soldiers' dormitory or the family area. Forget about the female soldiers' dormitory. Impossible. It's impossible in this lifetime. Peng Kaidan understood the subtext. He didn't expect that the Blackwater Army would actually arrange this, arranging Yin Chu and Yin Yulan and other orphans to the camp dormitory. Mr. Qin, Aren't you afraid of any accidents when arranging outsiders into the military camp? Before Qin Mian spoke, Yin Chu couldn't hold back. Mr. Peng is doubting the character of our sisters. Peng Kaiden looked at the two Yin classmates' livid faces, and thought to himself, not good, but if he was asked to explain anything, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Looking at Peng Kaiden's look of even if I'm wrong, I won't admit my mistake even if I die, Yin Chu snorted coldly, took Yin Yulan's hand, and turned to leave. Yin Chu walked a little fast, and Yin Yulan couldn't help but stagger. Feeling Yin Yulan's reluctance, Yin Chu slowed down a little. He was still able to take care of her pace. It seemed that their Chu-Chu was far from being as angry as she showed, and Yin Yulan breathed a sigh of relief. What do you think Peng Kaiden means? Yin Chu sneered. He is just used to being praised by others, and he doesn't take small people like us seriously. But it's good this way. We can use this excuse to reject him. Thinking of the various troubles that Peng Kaiden's stay in Lingsu Star region would cause, Yin Yulan's expression was not very good. He is the son of the president of the Pharmacy Association. Why doesn't he stay in the capital star but come to Lingsu Star? Yin Chu touched his chin. You, an insider, don't know. How can an outsider like me know? Yin Yulan bit his lower lip. I'm not the roundworm in his stomach. But my mother must know. Yin Chu glanced at the two figures approaching not far away, and quickly pulled Yin Yulan. Don't worry, take your time, we have plenty of time. Yin Yulan followed her gaze and snorted coldly. I didn't feel that way before. Now the more I look at him, the more I hate him. I don't know when I can send this guy away. Yin Chu dragged Yin Yulan towards the female soldiers' dormitory of the logistics department, and said, it depends on how Mr. Qin plans to deal with this matter. No matter what Peng Kaiden's intentions are, there will be only two endings in the end. One is that he gets what he wants and leaves with satisfaction. The second is that he failed to fulfill his wish, but had to leave for various reasons. No matter which option, it would not take too long. Before he left, Yin Chu could only be Yin Chu and Yin Yulan could only continue to be Yin Yulan. However, some things can no longer be delayed. Even if they are wearing the shells of Yin Chu and Yin Yulan, they still have to do what they should do. For example, the direction of the new mecha of Tang's mecha, the future planning of the Starship Factory, and various bidding documents. For example, the long list of experiments issued by Mr. Li Bangsha, and the various data that Qing was waiting to sort out. The two sisters filled their stomachs in a hurry, and then each walked into the room arranged by Qin Mian for them and got busy. After working day and night for 3 days and 3 nights, the sisters' dark circles were comparable to those of pandas, but at least the most important things were dealt with. So, the two sisters, relieved, made an appointment to go to the cafeteria for a hearty midnight snack. After all, only when you are full can you have the energy to stay up late. Who knew that they had just ordered their meals and had not had time to start eating when they saw Comrade Qin Mian walking into the restaurant with that damn Master Peng. The two sisters looked at each other and suddenly felt that the food in front of them was not as tempting as before. But some people were still unaware and walked straight towards them. What a coincidence. Chapter 228 Be cautious when eating melons. Someone spent 3 days and walked around the female soldiers' dormitory for nearly 30 times, and the answer he got was what a coincidence, which obviously did not get the other party's approval. Yin Yulan lowered his head and picked at the rice, while Yin Chu simply threw away his chopsticks and looked at him with his arms folded across his chest. Mr. Peng, do you have any advice? Peng Kaiden was choked by this and was speechless. Comrade Qin Mian really couldn't stand it, so he walked over and took Peng Kaiden away. Mr. Peng, the midnight snack in our cafeteria is a must, especially the sweet-scented osmanthus wine meatballs. In the cafeteria late at night, a faint fragrance wafted. Yin Chu pursed his lips and asked in a low voice, are you still eating? Yin Yulan poked the food in front of him and whispered, although, who knows that every grain of rice on the plate is hard-earned. But when I saw him, I really couldn't eat it. Yin Chu paused, then pack it up. I'll process it for you when I go back, and it's still edible. Yin Yulan happily put down his chopsticks, borrowed 2 lunchboxes from the cafeteria and packed up the remaining food and took it away. Looking at the backs of the 2 Yin classmates, the fragrance on Peng Kaiden's body became stronger. Qin Mian smelled the smell, and his heart skipped a beat. The hand holding the 2 bowls of osmanthus wine meatballs trembled. Fortunately, Peng Kaiden didn't notice that the bowl of intact osmanthus wine meatballs was finally delivered to Peng Kaiden. Mr. Peng, try it. Peng Kaiden was not hungry at all. The bowl of meatballs in front of him looked ordinary and didn't arouse his appetite. However, this was Qin Mian's territory, so he had to give him some face. Peng Kain picked up the spoon and stirred the bowl of meatballs. Comrade Qin Mian saw through it but didn't say anything. He picked up the bowl of meatballs in front of him and finished it in no time. He wiped his mouth and asked with a smile, "Mr. Peng, where are we going next?" Peng Kain put down the spoon and said coldly, "It's getting late, let's go back to the hotel." Qin Mian breathed a sigh of relief and asked again, "What time should I come to pick up Mr. Peng tomorrow morning?" Peng Kain thought for a while. "Let's go to the old time, 8 o'clock. Early to bed and early to rise is good for health." Qin Mian thought of the dark circles under the eyes of the two little girls, pursed his lips, and didn't say anything. Qin Mian didn't say anything, and the journey seemed particularly quiet. Fortunately, the hotel was not far from the base, so it wasn't too difficult. When Qin Mian went to pick up Peng Kain the next day, he thought that today would be a repeat of the itinerary of the previous few days. Unexpectedly, Peng Kain changed his mind. "I heard that the market in Lingsu Star region is very interesting. Mr. Qin, are you free to accompany me to visit?" Qin Mian paused, turned around and changed direction, and made a gesture of invitation to Peng Kain. "Mr. Peng, please come this way." Peng Kain straightened his clothes and then raised his legs to walk in the direction Qin Mian indicated. Peng Kain was used to being flattered and coaxed, and he didn't know how inappropriate it was to use the military advisor of the Blackwater Army as a tour guide. When he realized that he couldn't move an inch in Lingsu Star region, it was too late. In just 7 days, how did Qin Mian welcome him off the starship, and how did Qin Mian respectfully send him to the starship to the capital star? Peng Kain was so angry that his lungs were about to explode, but he couldn't find fault with Qin Mian. The only omission of Qin Mian might be the group of orphans headed by Yin Chu and Yin Yulan. As soon as Peng Kain left, an investigation team entered Lingsu Star region to investigate the military expenditure of the Blackwater Army. How could Qin Mian not see the trick in this? But he was not afraid. When Ding Yin was the guardian, the contract signed by the 3 parties to voluntarily join the Blackwater Army was still in the Blackwater Army's filing cabinet. Moreover, 1/3 of them have fulfilled their original promise and become a member of the Blackwater Army. It was his and Marshal Black's idea to adopt that group of orphans, and they could only spend their credit points. Now, he and Marshal Black have been squeezed to the side. The older brothers and sisters have already shouldered their own responsibilities and tried their best to raise the younger brothers and sisters. Most of these brothers and sisters are also very sensible, sweeping various scholarships from various schools, and working hard to reduce the burden on the brothers and sisters. This group of orphans lived in the dormitory of the logistics department. Although Qin Mian and the logistics department had families, the officers and soldiers living outside discussed and arranged them to live in the dormitory one by one in the name of their families. Therefore, the military expenditure of the Blackwater Army was clear and obvious. Not to mention one audit team, even if there were 10, Qin Mian would not be afraid. After a week of the audit team stationed in the Blackwater Army, they finally left in disgrace. The 2 Yin classmates quickly restored their original appearance and went back to their own homes. Tang Fan's live broadcast room, which had been overgrown with grass, finally resumed its live broadcast function. This time, in addition to the 3 latest series of Tang's Mecha, the live broadcast also included a purple-level starship. The news that Tang's Mecha began to manufacture starships spread like wildfire. This was an unprecedented earthquake for the starship foundry industry. Before everyone could come to their senses, the gossip that Tang's Mecha used mutant biological extracts to manufacture mechas quickly swept the star network with a thunderous momentum. Tang Fan's live broadcast room exploded all of a sudden. The official website of Tang's Mecha was full of blood and gore. Tang Fan said nothing, but posted the test reports of more than 100 mechas in 20 series released by Tang's Mecha since she took over. Just when everyone thought that the melon was finished, the patent transfer signed by Qin Yi and Tang's Mecha for multiple studies on mutant creatures and the patent application for related parts suddenly appeared on the Star Network. The extent of Tang's Mecha's research on the mechanization of mutant creatures has become the latest and hottest topic in the Alliance. Before the melon-eating crowd came to Tang's Mecha for explanation, Tang's Mecha could not wait to report the case to the General Administration of the Alliance Security Bureau and publicize it on the entire network. The melon-eating crowd looked at the line above reason for reporting. commercial secrets stolen, and realized that the topic they were discussing had involved other people's commercial secrets, and they had already tested the edge of commercial crime. Eating a melon almost broke the law. This feeling is simply beating the dog. Blame Tang's Mecha? They are also victims, okay? Therefore, the call for arresting the criminals resounded throughout the Star Network. In view of the high public demand, the Public Security Bureau had to take active action. The first step was to remove all discussions about the mechization of mutant creatures. The second step was to sort out the sources of these news. The Alliance Patent Office was the first to be investigated. Chapter 229 The Right to Speak. The Public Security Bureau took away 3 staff members from the Patent Office on charges of dereliction of duty and leaking trade secrets, and the case officially entered the judicial process. Not only did the Alliance members monitor the progress of the case online in real time, but the Marshall Song Mansion, the Marshall Black Mansion, Dean Lan of the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy, the Alliance Mecha Association, the military, also expressed their concern about this case. The Public Security Bureau raised this matter to an unprecedented height, but the progress was really unsatisfactory. Tang's Mecha, which was at the center of attention, stood up and released a 1-minute short video. Tang Fan in the video was still calm, and announced 2 things in his usual calm tone. 1. Tang's Mecha, like all friends, is closely following the progress of the case. 2. Tang's Mecha will retain the right to pursue legal responsibility for those who steal trade secrets for life, and is ready to enter the litigation process at any time. 3. In order to protect its own rights and interests, Tang's Mecha will no longer start the project of mechization of mutant organisms before the end of the case trial procedure. The project research that has been completed will not apply for patents for the time being. 4. Tang's Mecha will not publish its research results under pressure, but it is brave enough to assume its social responsibility as a member of the Alliance. In emergency situations where the Alliance needs it, it does not rule out providing relevant technical assistance free of charge. Tang Fan said every word with a powerful voice. However, after releasing this video, Tang's Mecha officially announced that it would suspend the update of its official website. In other words, Tang's Mecha knew that its official website was going to explode, so they acted like hooligans and walked away. What should the spectators do? Move to the official website of the Public Security Bureau. In just 1 hour, the official website of the Public Security Bureau was paralyzed. Think about the last time the official website was paralyzed, it was also because of Tang Fan. From then on, the Public Security Bureau had a disease that made people tremble when they heard the name of Tang Fan. With this tremor, the progress naturally accelerated. From the Patent Office, we found the Alliance Special Research Group, which had already been torn apart. From the Alliance Special Research Group, we found several families on the Capital Star. Because the things involved were too deep and too wide, whether it was investigation or evidence collection, the difficulty was too great, so the speed could not help but slow down. School was about to start, but there was still no news from the Public Security Bureau. Tang Fan couldn't help but get a little anxious. Once school started, she could only be Yinchu. And as a sophomore student at the Alliance Military Academy, Yinchu had no chance to leave school. If the Public Security Bureau needed her to assist in the investigation, how would she deal with it? If she didn't go to the Alliance Military Academy, how could Qin Yi protect herself with her delicate body? She couldn't split herself in 2. As a last resort, Tang Fan could only use the hands of the 2 marshals and Principal Lan Yuanlin to put a little pressure on the Public Security Bureau. Who knew that this little pressure would become the last straw that broke the camel's back? The Public Security Bureau actually closed the case under such pressure. Many big names related to the Alliance Special Research Group on the Capital Star were picked clean by them. Only a mecha dealer named Bob Twinster and a researcher named Emma were brought out. The Public Security Bureau officials said a lot about this case. But it is very simple to summarize. It is just that Bob Twinster, an ambitious man, colluded with Emma, a guy with great ambitions but little talent, in order to seek benefits, and wanted to use unfair commercial competition to frame Tang's Mecha. Faced with such a conclusion, let alone Tang Fan, the smart people in the Alliance would not believe it. The official website of the Public Security Bureau, which had just been maintained, collapsed again. In the interstellar era, everyone must be responsible for their own words and deeds. Although there are not many scoldings, there are many people who instilled the Alliance's code of conduct, the 16 words of courtesy, righteousness, integrity and shame, and the standard of IQ judgment into the Public Security Bureau. Looking at those remarks, The Public Security Bureau wanted to put their faces in their pockets. The chief of the Public Security Bureau also knew that what he did was not fair, and he would never satisfy those who were concerned about this matter. He could only explain to each person one by one, and attached a formal investigation content and a copy of the evidence to show his helplessness. The investigation content and the copy of the evidence also went through several twists and turns and came to Tang Fan's hands. But in the end, Tang Fan only remembered a few names and threw them to Tang Yang. She couldn't continue the investigation, just like the Public Security Bureau would rather bear the infamy and live in fear than go any further. The weak have no right to speak. Only the strong have the right to know the truth. Tang Fan clenched his fists and silently added more training tasks. Seeing Tang Fan live every day as if it were the last day of his life, everyone was under great pressure. After all, not everyone can bear the pressure of someone who is better than you and works harder than you. So, when the school opening date was determined, everyone couldn't wait to pack up and send this girl away. I thought that Blue Star region would be gentler to her. Unexpectedly, after seeing her training intensity, the Blackwater Army raised funds to buy 2 tickets for the next morning, and sent her and Yin Yulan away like a plague god. The freshman exam of the Alliance Military Academy is about to begin, and the starship is full of people. Yin Chu actually saw an old acquaintance in the crowd, Zhang Yue, who provoked her last year but failed the exam. I don't know if it can be regarded as a narrow road for enemies. However, Zhang Yue has been much more obedient than last year. Not only did he not get close to her, but he also knew how to stay as far away from her as possible. After getting off the starship, he ran out of the door like a fugitive. Looking at Zhang Yue's fleeing figure, Yin Chu's mood, which had been gloomy for many days, finally improved a little. Although it only takes more than 3 hours to travel between Blue Star region and Sumer Star region, the climate is very different. The Sumer Star region at the end of August is very sunny. Under the sycamore trees and on the edge of the playground, there are candidates everywhere. Looking at those youthful faces, Yin Chu couldn't help but recall his past self. The self who had nothing but courage. After knowing each other for many years, how could Yin Yulan not see the nostalgia in her eyes? Remember that year, you tempted me with beef jerky. I didn't know your true nature and thought you were a good person. Yin Chu raised his eyebrows. Am I not a good person? Yin Yulan clicked his tongue. Do you have any misunderstandings about yourself? Yin Chu shook his head and said with emotion, I think I have a thorough understanding of myself. But you seem to be a little bit arrogant. Yin Yulan suddenly realized that whether the person in front of him was a good person or not was debatable, but he was his bread and butter, so he quickly begged for mercy. Amidst the laughter, the gloom between Yin Chu's brows faded a bit. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230. After arriving at the school, the first thing Yin Chu and Yin Yulan had to do was to return the books to the library. After all, they had worked so hard for a summer vacation, and the books they borrowed from the library should have been read long ago. The two picked a few more books according to the book list given by Bai Jifeng and Shen Bailey, and handed them to the robot administrator for registration. As soon as they walked out of the library, they bumped into Bai Jifeng. Looking at the books in the arms of Yin Chu and Yin Yulan, Bai Jifeng's face was more smiling. Have you finished reading the books I borrowed before the holiday? Yin Yulan nodded and asked cautiously, Director Bai, I encountered a few problems when reading. Can you help me with them? Bai Jifeng glanced at the candidates who were chattering in groups of 3 or 5 on the playground, with a bit of embarrassment on his face. I'm a little busy these 2 days. If you're not in a hurry, come to my office after school starts. It's the one with my nameplate on the far right of the laboratory. Generally, I'm in the office around 2 p.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Yin Yulan hurriedly thanked him and watched Bai Jifeng walk into the library. As soon as he turned around, he saw Yin Chu's half-smiley eyes. Why are you looking at me like that? Yin Chu patted her shoulder and said meaningfully, I think I still have a lot of room for improvement. I need to learn from you. Yin Yulan rolled her eyes silently. You know how difficult it is for me. And you're still teasing me. Yin Chu rubbed her head and said nothing. In the days of being cautious, no one has an easy time. The two avoided the crowd and walked slowly towards the dormitory. The holiday has not officially ended yet, and there are still 2 days before the formal classes start. The dormitory is empty. Zio is enjoying the warmth of her family and is not as active as the two of them. Therefore, the cleaning can only be done by the two of them. Yin Yulan, who is physically weak, finally cooperated to complete the cleaning of the living room, and then lay directly on the sofa without moving. It seems that this guy has persisted in exercising for a semester, but he can't survive a pampered summer vacation. Yin Chu's eyes can't help but sharpen a bit, which makes Yin Yulan frightened and beg for mercy again and again. Unfortunately, Yin Chu is not George, and he doesn't have a heart of sympathy. That afternoon, the two spent in the training room, and Yin Yulan alone consumed 5 physical recovery potions. Afterwards, Yin Yulan, who was sore and weak in his limbs, directly occupied the sofa in the dormitory. He couldn't even lift his fingers, and relied on Yin Chu to serve him. I thought that after a hard day, this matter would be over. Who knew that when she got up the next day, Yin Chu dragged her to the training room again. Yin Yulan looked at Yin Chu's persistence and the amount of training that was better than before, and silently swallowed back her words of complaint and begging for mercy, and said tactfully, Kiu, let's take a break and continue, okay? Looking at Yin Yulan's worried little eyes, Yin Chu couldn't say no. Yin Chu also knew that she was a little impatient recently, and she knew that people around her were worried, but she couldn't get out of it. Sitting down next to Yin Yulan and taking a big sip of water, Yin Chu lowered her head. You go back first. I'll practice some more. Yin Yulan hugged her arm and shook his head. I won't leave. When I was here, you would still consider my feelings. If I leave, you don't know how to torture yourself, as expected of a good girlfriend. This statement was so incisive and to the point. Yin Chu stiffened his neck and said, how could I not know my own body? It's just a little more training. How can it be considered a toss? If Yin Chu hadn't turned his head away and didn't dare to look into her eyes, Yin Yulan would have almost believed it. You probably forgot what a pharmacist does. Yin Chu raked his short hair irritably, and simply lay on the ground, pretending to be dead. Yin Yulan patted her shoulder and said softly, you have to eat one bite at a time, and do things one step at a time. You can't rush it. Yin Chu smiled bitterly and said, I know the truth, but I just can't get over it in my heart. Yin Yulan tentatively said, how about we go to the cafeteria to have a good meal first? This sentence is very Yin Yulan style. After all, for Yin Yulan, there's nothing that can't be solved by a meal. If there's, it's a matter of 2 meals. Although she knew that this was unreliable, looking at Yin Yulan's bright eyes, Yin Chu stood up and said, you treat me. Yin Yulan had no doubts and pulled Yin Chu towards the cafeteria. I heard that the sweet and sour pork ribs in the cafeteria are very delicious. I have always wanted to try it. Yin Chu rolled her eyes and said, a sweet and sour pork ribs, is it that important? Yin Yulan nodded and said, it's that important. Yin Chu said that she didn't quite understand the world of foodies. The cafeteria of the Alliance Military Academy is much larger than that of the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. It was just mealtime, and the cafeteria on the upper and lower 3 floors was full of people. Yin Yulan was obviously prepared, and she took Yin Chu's hand and ran towards the leftmost window on the 2nd floor. That speed was far higher than the test level in the training room, and was close to the maximum speed of Yin Yulan. Then, Yin Yulan broke through from both sides, eliminated 80% of the people in the cafeteria, and single-handedly grabbed 2 servings of the cafeteria's most popular sweet and sour pork ribs. Yin Chu suddenly realized that Yin Yulan's fighting ability was definitely not as weak as she showed in the training room. Her best friend still had great potential, waiting for her to discover. Looking at the sweet and sour pork ribs in front of her, which were served in a white porcelain plate and sprinkled with a handful of fried white sesame seeds, and then looking at Yin Yulan's expectant eyes, Yin Chu slowly picked up the chopsticks, picked up a piece and put it in her mouth. After a while, a small piece of bone was wrapped in a tissue and returned to the table. There is a little more sugar and a little less vinegar. It tastes a little sweet to me, but you should like it. After saying that, he pushed his own portion in front of Yin Yulan. Yin Yulan was not polite and accepted it all. It was just 2 servings of sweet and sour pork ribs, she could digest it. Looking at Yin Yulan eating happily, Yin Chu suddenly felt a little hungry. Looking around the 2nd floor, Yin Chu took the student's card of Yin Yulan and lined up to get a bowl of plain noodles. After eating carbohydrates, he actually felt a little calmer. It seems that the thinking of foodies is not that difficult to understand. Chapter 231 Hilao. But Yin Chu, who had finally calmed down, became agitated again when she saw Peng Kaden at the entrance of the cafeteria. Although there was no conclusive evidence, Yin Chu was 100% sure that Peng Kaden was involved in this matter based on the things provided by the Public Security Bureau. But no matter how much she suspected, without evidence, it was just suspicion. The Public Security Bureau had already closed the case, and it was absolutely impossible for her, an ordinary civilian, to overturn the case. Peng Kaden was unaware of Yin Chu's emotions, and walked towards her step by step without fear of death. Yin Yulan quickly grabbed Yin Chu's hand, fearing that this guy could not help but fight at the entrance of the cafeteria. Yin Chu felt the weight of her hand and snorted. She was a little irritable recently, but this did not affect her IQ, okay? Even if she was very dissatisfied in her heart, she would not take the initiative to touch any hair of the son of the president of the Pharmacy Association without absolute certainty. She was in a bad mood and couldn't pretend to be nice, but she could ignore Peng Kaden. Yin Yulan took a step forward and hid Yin Chu behind him. Unfortunately, as a physically weak person, Yin Yulan's small body couldn't hide Yin Chu's skinny body. The scene immediately became funny. Peng Kaden couldn't help laughing, and didn't want to help laughing. Yin Chu's face suddenly turned livid, and Yin Yulan's face didn't look good either. A tall boy next to Peng Kaden reminded him in a low voice, "Mr. Peng, quality. Pay attention to your quality," but Peng Kaden seemed not to hear it, holding his stomach and laughing. That fearless look made Yin Chu's expression particularly ugly. She didn't want to talk, she just wanted to be quiet. So, Yin Chu pulled Yin Yulan away without saying a word, leaving a chick back for Peng Kaden to see. Peng Kaden was stunned for the first time when he was treated coldly. Yin Yulan turned her head and looked at Peng Kaden's silly look, and couldn't help but smiled. "If you dare to laugh at me, I will dare to ignore you." There are so many people who laugh at Yin Chu and Yin Yulan. But there are not many people in the entire alliance who ignore Peng Kaden. I wonder if you will make Peng Kaden vomit blood? Yin Yulan silently gave a thumbs up to their QQ. When it comes to the ability to irritate people, she doesn't support the strong, but only their QQ. Unfortunately, Yin Yulan's happiness only lasted for a few minutes. When she saw the door of the training room, all her happiness disappeared immediately. "QQ, are you coming again?" Yin Chu said coldly. "If you don't want to be laughed at, you have to have the capital to make people hold back." Yin Yulan's face changed drastically, and he grabbed Yin Chu's arm tightly, and said nervously, "So? What do you want to do?" Yin Chu tutted and sneered, "So, I plan to train seriously, break through the bottleneck as soon as possible, and become an excellent mecha pilot." This answer, which is completely in line with the Alliance's code of conduct for citizens, is positive and healthy, but it makes Yin Yulan very upset. Before she could figure out how to persuade her bestie, a hoarse male voice sounded next to her. "Breaking through the bottleneck requires an opportunity, not reckless action. It is not only undesirable to rush for success, but it is also easy to hurt the foundation, and the gains will not outweigh the losses. By then, it will be too late to regret it." Before the voice fell, a series of coughs rang out. It seemed that just 3 short sentences had consumed all his strength. There is only one person in the Alliance Military Academy who coughs for a long time after saying one sentence, the training room administrator, Lao He. That was a skinny old man. He had been lying on a recliner at the door of the training room for years, holding a never-ending wine goblet in his hand, taking a sip from time to time, with a master's demeanor. As a frequent visitor to the training room, Yin Chu had been coming and going in the training room for more than half a year, and had never heard him speak. Now, this old man who had never spoken much suddenly spoke, and just hit the nail on the head. Yin Chu couldn't help but be surprised and looked at the old man for a second longer. Who knew that he would meet Mr. He's eyes? Unlike Mr. He's skinny figure, his eyes were bright and energetic, as if they could see directly into your heart. The spirit is focused in his eyes, and he can also achieve the effect of expression hurting people. This old man is not simple. When Yin Chu looked at Mr. He was also looking at her. He has worked in the Alliance Military Academy for 35 years and has seen many students of all kinds. There are many talented students and many diligent students, but there are only a handful of students who have both. The little girl in front of him could barely be considered one. After 35 years of eating at the Alliance Military Academy, he naturally had a little more experience in worldly affairs. He, who had always been a nosy person, also became soft-hearted. Fortunately, This little girl lived up to his expectations. Her eyes were bright, and she didn't dodge when he looked at her. She was courageous and clear-headed, and was a good candidate. His whole spirit depended on a pair of eyes. There were only a few old men who could look him in the eye for more than 3 seconds, and the only underage one was the one in front of him. If he was 50 years younger, he could have trained a successor or something. But now, with his half-crippled body, he had long lost the desire to accept disciples. Don't look at me so straight. I am lucky to be alive. I don't have the ability to break the shackles for you. Yin Chu was not annoyed when his thoughts were revealed. Instead, he said shamelessly, Senior, you are too modest. You have been in this training room for many years. The people you have seen and the things you have experienced are definitely not comparable to those of us young boys. Since you can see my problem at a glance, you must have seen a lot. Anyway, you are free anyway, why not chat with me and let me take fewer detours? He Lao has lived for most of his life, and this is the first time he has met someone who takes asking others for help so naturally. It seems that the little girl is not only bold, but also very thick-skinned. He Lao couldn't help but want to tease her. It's okay for the little girl to disturb my rest, but you also want to chat with me? Do you know how much it costs to chat with me? Yin Chu glanced at the wine pot in his hand and squinted, in one sentence, a pot of jade drink. Hearing the 3 words jade drink coming out of the little girl's mouth, He Lao's eyes narrowed slightly, and the sense of oppression suddenly increased a few points. Yin Chu tried hard to bear the pressure and not to retreat. Yin Yulan, who was watching the battle on the side, looked at the struggling look of Yin Chu and couldn't help but speak. Generally speaking, drinking alcohol will irritate the trachea, cause severe coughing, and even significantly aggravate the condition. Therefore, people with cor pulmonale will strictly prohibit drinking. No matter how the old man looks at it, he doesn't look like a person who is desperate and looking for death. Therefore, your wine bag must not contain wine, but an alternative drink. It is not wine but better than wine, and it is extremely expensive. In addition to jade drink, I can't think of anything else. Chapter 232 Question. Yin Yulan's analysis was reasonable. He couldn't help but look at this physically weak person with a different eye. The little girl's physical fitness is not very good, but her brain is quite useful. I smell a strong smell of medicine on you. You must be one of the people under the Bai family. Why are you running to the training room instead of reading books and doing experiments? Yin Yulan glanced at Yin Chu, who had recovered, and whispered, the body is the capital of revolution. Only with a good physique can you do better research. There is nothing wrong with this statement, and it makes some sense. But when he saw the little girl's evasive eyes and heard the voice that was a little lower and a little guilty, he knew that the little girl's words were obviously not in line with her heart and could not be trusted. He took a sip of the jade drink and smiled maliciously. Little girl, lying is not a good habit. Yin Yulan looked at his toes and whispered, not following the doctor's orders is not a good habit either. Yin Yulan's voice was not loud, but martial artists are very observant, and he just happened to hear it. So, He grabbed the wine bag's hand and couldn't help shaking. The 2 people doctor's orders are simply He's Achilles' heel. Anyone who has been lying in the hospital for 2.5 years and hears these 2 words every day will have some side effects. For example, as long as he thought that this little girl with poor physical strength in front of him could also be classified as a doctor, He didn't want to talk to her. So, he sensui turned his head away, closed his eyes, and ignored people. This action was no different from a child who was angry, which shocked Yin Yulan. Yin Chu thought it was normal. Old children, people are like children when they are old. The reason why they are willful is that they are fearless. Yin Chu looked at He deeply, and took Yin Yulan away. Tang Fan could afford the price of a pot of jade drink, but Yin Chu could not. She had to find another way. An effective method for an old man who is afraid of seeing a doctor. Otherwise, stew a walnut, white fungus and old pigeon soup to try? What if this guy is a real foodie like Yin Yulan? In fact, the aroma of pigeon soup cannot wake up an old man pretending to sleep. Yin Chu was not discouraged. Since the aroma of pigeon soup is not enough, what about the drunkard peanuts made from high-quality peanuts, added with appropriate amounts of oil, sugar, 5-spice powder, and pepper salt? What about the sweet, spicy, salty and crispy strange-flavored broad beans? What about the fragrant 5-spice beef jerky? Yin Chu sat at the door of the training room and ate snacks for half an hour. Finally, he saw He's eyes secretly opened a crack. Of course, It was just a crack, and it closed quickly. But Yinchu was not in a hurry. She still had a trick up her sleeve. How could she not be thirsty after eating snacks for so long? At this time, a bowl of drink was perfect. With a sound of ding-dong, a sweet smell, with a faint aroma of wine, slowly floated from the direction of Yinchu to the surroundings of Mr. He. The 3-year-old He's nostrils twitched slightly, and he couldn't pretend anymore, so he simply stopped pretending and sat up. Yinchu shook the pottery jar in his hand and said with a smile, "Mr. He, let's chat?" He Samsui glanced at Yinchu's space button and said unhappily, "There's nothing to talk about with a little girl who likes to eat alone." Faced with He Samsui's dog temper, Yinchu didn't mind. He quickly took out various snacks from the space button and placed them on the small table in front of Mr. He. He smiled and said, "I saw that you fell asleep and was afraid to disturb you. I can't afford the J drink, but I still have my own brewed rice wine. Want some?" He Samsui's Adam's apple moved slightly. "Then, drink a little." Yinchu smiled and poured a small bowl of rice wine for Mr. He, and added another bowl for himself. The white foam floating on the wine showed that it was just brewed. But He Samsui didn't care about that at the moment. He picked up the wine bowl and poured it into his mouth. When the slightly sweet rice wine slid into his throat, He Samsui moaned with satisfaction. Having spent 35 years in the military academy, he had been drinking jade wine all the time. He almost forgot what wine tasted like. Now he could drink a bowl of rice wine, even if it was just a bowl of rice wine, which was enough for He Samsui to savor. Wiping the wine from his lips, He Lao held the bowl in front of Yinchu and said proudly, "Another bowl." Yinchu smiled and satisfied He Samsui's wish, and consciously became the little sister who poured wine. The jar of rice wine was soon empty. He Lao smacked his lips, and felt that the wine bug in his stomach was getting more and more noisy. "Little girl, you really put in a lot of effort to trick me." Yinchu put down the empty jar of wine and laughed dryly. "Isn't it just to chat with He Lao more?" He Samsui curled his lips and said nothing about this. The little girl has a good foundation and is a decent person. Even if she has some small thoughts, it doesn't matter. Then just say a few words. If a pond wants to hold more water, there are only two ways. One is to widen the pond. The other is to compress the water in the pond. If the body is a pond, the process from A level to A level is the process of widening the pond. And from A level to S level, or even SS level and SSS level, is the process of compressing the water in the pond. This principle is not profound, and 80% of the people in the alliance know it. But when He Lao was talking about it, Yinchu just listened quietly, without any intention of interrupting. This made He Samsui very satisfied. Taking a sip of the jade drink, He Samsui continued, "There are 4 parts of the human body that can be tempered: muscles, bones, tendons and consciousness. If you want to go further, all 4 are indispensable. Many people stop moving forward because they encounter their own shortcomings. You are different from them. Your consciousness is very strong, and your muscles, bones and tendons also have great potential. Although there are some minor problems, as long as they are properly adjusted, they should not cause too much impact." This is equivalent to nonsense for Yinchu, but she still did not say anything. Old He took another sip of the jade drink and said lightly, "You are good in every way, girl, except for 2 points. First, you are too eager for success." Yinchu finally spoke and explained, "I know that my mentality has been a little unbalanced recently, but many times, time waits for no one." Old He said earnestly, "Many things cannot be rushed. Waiting is also a profound knowledge." Yinchu was silent for a moment, and asked, "What about my other question?" Old He said lightly, "Not enough practical experience. This problem is more serious than the previous one." Chapter 233 Side Effects. Yinchu narrowed her eyes and turned over her memories. The last actual combat was on the planet Orlando, which was more than 7 years ago. This was definitely not a good thing for her. "May I ask, where can I practice actual combat in the school?" Mr. He looked at Yinchu deeply and shook his head. "Only by constantly challenging your limits can you break through yourself. The training base in the school is of no help to you. What's the point of using a training base that can't even break through the S level?" Yinchu was roaring in her heart, but she didn't dare to say it out loud. More haste, less speed. She must control her emotions, not be controlled by them. Yinchu repeatedly persuaded herself, but turned her head and saw Mr. He sipping the jade drink leisurely. Yinchu's heart settled down at once. Is there any other way? Mr. He sipped his jade drink without saying a word. Yinchu gritted her teeth. A jar of rice wine. Mr. He silently stretched out a hand. 5 jars? The old man is quite greedy. But people have to bow their heads under the eaves. What can Yinchu do? Of course, nod and agree. After Yinchu nodded, Mr. He spoke. The annual Alliance military quality competition is about to begin, and it's not too late to sign up now. Yinchu almost vomited blood when he heard this. It's just such a well-known news, and you have the nerve to ask me for 5 jars of rice wine. What is embarrassed? Mr. He has lied for most of his life, and he has not fully grasped the true meaning of these 4 words. It's a matter of mutual consent. Don't make me sound like a liar. Why does this sound so uncomfortable? Yinchu felt that if she continued to chat with Mr. He, she would definitely vomit blood and die. So, she took a deep breath, picked up her wine jar, patted her butt and prepared to leave. But as soon as she took a step, she felt a pulling force from behind. Yinchu turned her head and met Mr. He's curious eyes. Don't leave in a hurry. I still have a question for you. Yinchu threw the empty wine jar into his space buckle, turned around and looked at Mr. He, pursed his lips. You ask? Looking at her attitude, Mr. He knew that she had half a sentence left to say. I am not necessarily responsible for the answer. The little girl is not big, but her temper is not small. Muscle and bone problems usually come from malnutrition. You don't look like you don't have enough food. How did you get yourself into this state? Yinchu had some messy thoughts flashing through his mind, but his face was only covered with a cold protective color. As an orphan, I can't answer your questions. Mr. He frowned. Have you never doubted it? Yinchu pulled out his sleeves from Mr. He's hand and said lightly, there is no use in doubting. The only dean who knows my origins has passed away due to overwork. Hearing this, Mr. He was shocked, and there was a little more sympathy in his eyes when he looked at Yinchu. I thought I could find the cause of your muscle, bone and tendon problems through your past history. Now it seems that it won't work. Perhaps you can find a pharmacist to help you. Yinchu rubbed his temples and sighed. A full-body checkup requires more than 10,000 credit points. Not only is there a risk of physical data being leaked, but there is also a high possibility of getting nothing. I have nothing better to do, so I'll give them money. There's nothing wrong with this. But it just made the pharmacist want to hide him. You don't want to spend money, but you still want to get results. Maybe you can only ask your friend for help. Yinchu touched his chin. I think this is okay. Mr. He looked at Yinchu with a complicated look. Is she too careless, or has his taunting skills degenerated? How can a smart girl not even hear taunting? Mr. He was just about to be merciful to help explain his true intentions, but the enlightened classmate Yinchu had already drifted away and went to find her best friend. Yinchu didn't know her origins and the cause of her illness, but Tang Fan knew it very well. Muscle and bone problems usually come from malnutrition, but they may also come from the side effects of delayed development drugs. Obviously, the 2GH drugs Song Si gave her did not completely solve all the problems caused by her long-term use of delayed development drugs. So, what's the use of having a man? At the critical moment, you still have to rely on your bestie. Yinchu took 2 steps at a time and bribed her bestie with a table of delicious food to do a full-body examination for herself. The focus? Naturally, it is the problem of muscle and bone development. After all, tendons are a bit mysterious. Let alone Yin Yuan, even a master like Mr. Li Bangshi may not be able to find out the reason. A simple muscle and bone development test is not difficult for the elites of the Blue Ocean Mecha Academy research group. In just half an hour, a professional and detailed analysis report was placed in front of Yinchu. Yinchu, a layman, couldn't understand the professional data in front. But this did not prevent her from understanding the results. The results were not beyond her expectations. Her muscle development was 1.23 years later than her peers, her bone hardness was 0.018 lower than her peers, but her suture closure was no different from her peers. It did not seem obvious on the surface, but it had already caused irreparable permanent damage to her body. I thought you were the kind of person who could eat anything but not gain weight, but who knew you? Yinchu fell on the bed, thinking of the first delayed development potion she had. It was a birthday gift that she prepared for herself when she was 12 years old, and she spent all her savings. It was just because she felt the subtle changes in herself that year. Her voice began to become thinner and sharper, her limbs began to become rounder and slender, and her chest began to swell. Everything hinted that she was about to become different from boys. She was about to become a thorough girl. If it was on the capital planet, or other peaceful and prosperous planets, this would not be a big deal. But when all this happened on the Red Iron planet, where the public security was not very good, and happened to a beautiful girl without a household registration, it meant disaster. The young lady named Sandra on Beta Street, a beautiful young lady with a household registration, was spotted by some street thugs and was raped. Su Shu, who had no household registration on 7th Street, couldn't wait to marry a widowed old man who was older than her father, and all she wanted was a chance to leave Red Iron Planet. In the face of these cruel facts, no one knew how terrified she was when Tang Gang was out for a long time and could not be contacted. She had only one thought at the time. As long as she kept the appearance of a gloomy teenager, there would be a greater chance that she would earn enough credit points and go out. She knew the side effects of the potion. But she knew even more that life was more important than the side effects. She would never forget the feeling when she got the delayed development potion, as if she had grabbed the last straw to save her life. She poured the potion into her mouth as soon as possible, and then she felt that she was finally alive. Chapter 234 Participation. She was really scared at that time. She was walking on a road without hope or future, trembling alone. Thinking about it now, she still felt sorry for herself at that time. Therefore, she could not say against her will that her original choice was wrong. Therefore, she did not regret it. However, she had to ask the question. Is there any way to make up for it? Yin Yulan thought about it and replied, eat more nutritious food and exercise properly. Yin Chu interrupted her quickly. In other words, just leave it to fate. Yin Yulan frowned. If you want to say that, I can't help it. After all, you took the medicine for 3 years, not 3 days, nor 3 weeks. It was fun to take the medicine at the beginning, but it was a crematorium afterwards. It seems that this matter can't be rushed. Come and help me look at this. Yin Chu put his light brain in front of Yin Yulan. On the interface of the light brain homepage, the bright words Alliance Military Quality Competition almost blinded Yin Yulan's eyes. Alliance Military Quality Competition? Don't forget, you are still a sophomore student. The Alliance Military Quality Competition is organized by the military, with rich rewards and a good opportunity to enter the side of the military's top leaders. Correspondingly, the competition is also very fierce. Most of the applicants are senior students, and there are even 7th graders. For a sophomore like Yin Chu, signing up for the Alliance Military Quality Competition is simply overestimating one's ability in the eyes of others. Mr. He said that my biggest problem is that I don't have enough practical experience. And he suggested that I participate in this competition. Yin Yulan didn't expect that the reason why Yin Chu wanted to sign up for the competition was not for the ranking or the reward, but for actual combat. This reason was so sufficient that she couldn't refute it. Then let's give it a try. Yin Chu never had the word give it a try in her dictionary. Either don't do it, or do it to your extreme. Since she has obtained the approval of Yin Yulan and decided to sign up for the Alliance Military Quality Competition, she will do her best to do her best. However, in order to reassure Yin Yulan, she decided to remain silent. After carefully studying the schedule and system, Yin Chu paid a registration fee of 3,000 credit points and signed up for this year's Alliance Military Quality Competition. The news that Yin Chu signed up for the Alliance Military Quality Competition soon spread throughout the Alliance Military Academy. It immediately overshadowed the hot topic of freshmen's admission scores and occupied the top spot in the school's hot search rankings. Everyone knows that Yin Chu is a monster, and they also know that this girl is stubborn, but they never thought that she could be so stubborn. This greatly inspired students of all grades at the Alliance Military Academy, resulting in the number of applicants for this year's Alliance Military Quality Competition far exceeding the organizers' expectations, so that a preliminary competition was specially added to the Alliance Military Academy. Because it was a new competition system, there was not much preparation time, and this preliminary competition simply and roughly assessed the Alliance Military Pentathlon. The 5 military events are 200-meter standard attack, accuracy and speed, 1,000-meter obstacle race, 20 obstacles, 200-meter practical swimming, 4 obstacles, fighting, 1v1, and cross-country running, 20 kilometers for men and 15 kilometers for women. 5 events, completed within 2 days. The difficulty was so great that it directly forced 1/3 of the participants to retreat. Apart from other things, the difficulty of the 1,000-meter obstacle race alone was extraordinary. In the 1,000-meter distance, with opponents in front and behind and pursuers behind, you have to maintain the fastest speed to pass through 20 obstacles such as barbed wire, obstacle ladders, cave jumps, iron bars and concrete walls. The result of jumping up and down non-stop is that your legs are bruised and your whole body is like lead. The organizing committee will not give you more recovery time. At most 10 minutes, the whistle for the next game will sound. Therefore, Yin Chu found without surprise that among the contestants, except for himself, the others are all seniors. There are only 3 stars in the Sumerian star field. The star where the main body of the Alliance Military Academy is located is called the main star, and the other 2 stars are simply named the trial star and the cultivation star. In order not to affect the normal work of the school, this time the preliminaries were arranged on the cultivation star. The cultivation star is only 1/3 the size of the main star, and the climate is similar to that of the main star. The scorching sun can melt people. Most of the cultivation star is hilly and undulating. There are 2 3-story buildings between the mountains. The larger building is a gymnasium that can accommodate 30,000 people. The other small and exquisite building is a comprehensive office building called the Supply Point. The teachers did not give the contestants more opportunities to understand and drove them directly into the gymnasium. There are 4 doors in the gymnasium, and 2 teachers are guarding each door. After showing the registration information, the teacher gave a blue number plate. Yin Chu pinned the number plate L1,987,521 on her collar and followed the crowd in. The gymnasium that can accommodate 30,000 people is sparsely populated with contestants. There are not many people, only about 2,000. I don't know how many of them will be left to the end. As the youngest contestant, Yin Chu was the focus of attention. All the judges and teachers came to her to show their presence, and repeatedly told her to call for help from them at the critical moment when she couldn't hold on. If she hadn't learned from Zio that the Alliance Military Academy had used her to make bets, she would have been almost moved by this group of good teachers who love students. What was beyond Yin Chu's expectation was that Bai Jiffin, the dean of the Department of Pharmacy, did not come with a team for such a competition with frequent accidents. Instead, there was a female teacher about 50 years old. She was 173 centimeters tall, not tall, with dark skin, and wearing a pair of black goggles, which silently added a little sense of distance. Who else could be the female teacher of the Department of Pharmacy? Of course, it was Tao Bixi. The target that classmate Yin Yulan wanted to capture appeared, and Yin Chu couldn't help but look at her twice more. When Yin Chu was looking at Tao Bixi was also looking at her. Although she didn't participate in the gambling game, Tao Bixi's attention to Yin Chu was no less than that of others. After all, anyone who can talk to the old man He King Feng is worthy of her attention. However, Tao Bixi did not agree with Yin Chu's hasty registration for the Alliance military quality competition. Yin Chu was too high profile. Being high profile could easily lead to failure. The old man He King Feng was a lesson for us. Chapter 235 Preliminary Round. Yin Chu noticed that Tao Bixi looked at her with a wrong look in her eyes, but her life was in her hands. What could she do? Of course, she smiled at Tao Bixi in a flattering way. Facing the slightly exaggerated smile of Yin Chu, Tao Bixi felt that her hands were itching. Before she could do anything, the culprit had already run to her. Hello, Professor Tao. My best friend has always been a fan of yours. Can I ask for your autograph for her? The serious preliminary competition of the Alliance military quality competition was transformed into a large fan meeting of Professor Tao in minutes, which caught people off guard. But this kind of thing happened to Yin Chu, but it seemed so natural. Tao Bixi narrowed her eyes and smiled. Okay. When you pass the preliminary competition, I will give you 2 of my autographs. Yin Chu looked at Tao Bixi's smile that didn't reach her eyes, and knew that she was completely despised. It seems that this Professor Tao doesn't like her very much. Fortunately, this guy is the mission target of Yin Yulan, not her own mission target. Since I can't improve my favorability, I'll quit while I'm ahead. Yin Chu looked at Tao Bixi with gratitude. Thank you, Professor Tao. I will definitely work hard to pass the preliminaries. Tao Bixi felt that Yin Chu was indeed someone who could talk to He King Feng, and he couldn't tell good from bad. Tao Bixi's hands were itching even more, but she resisted the urge to do so for the sake of more than 2,000 teachers and students. And Yin Chu had already slipped away when Professor Tao was muttering about prosperity, democracy, civilization, harmony, freedom and equality. Before Tao Bixi could catch her figure, The referee had already blew his whistle, and the whole gymnasium immediately fell silent. After the president of the Alliance Military Academy, General Xiao Ziming of the Alliance, came on stage and made a brief speech, the competition officially began. In stark contrast to the traditional military pentathlon sequence, this time the military pentathlon started with 1v1 fighting. The goal of eliminating half of the candidates in the first round was very clear. As for the opponents in the 1v1 fight, the decision was also made hastily. The two people with adjacent numbers would just fight each other directly. As the students Yin Chu with the number L1,987,521, the opponent is naturally L1,987,522. He is a burly man with a height of 2 meters. After confirming that the opponent is Yin Chu, the big man grinned at her, and that smile could completely scare a child under 2 years old. "Little girl, I don't mind hitting women. It's not too late for you to withdraw from the competition now." Yin Chu glanced at him and sneered, "What a coincidence. I don't mind hitting men either. It's not too late for you to withdraw from the competition now." As he spoke, dozens of grid lines had been drawn in the middle of the wide stadium, dividing the venue into countless rectangles. A cold and ruthless electronic synthesized voice sounded from the radio. "Please enter the venue, contestants L1987001, L1987200, to participate in the first fighting match. Please enter the venue, contestants L1987001, L1987200, to participate in the first fighting match. The time limit is 30 seconds, and the countdown begins 30, 29. Yin Chu raised his eyebrows. "Brother, there's still a chance for one round, hurry up." The 2-meter-tall burly man was so angry at Yin Chu that he trembled all over, and left after saying, "A dog bites Lu Dongbin, who doesn't know the good heart?" Yin Chu looked at the angry figure, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "This senior brother is interesting. She can think about it later, not hitting people in the face." Although they are all from the same school, there are still differences between people, and the differences are not ordinary. In the first round of 1v1 fighting, the shortest time was only 18 seconds, and the longest time was only 11 minutes and 23 seconds. In the second round of 1v1 fighting, the shortest time was 27 seconds, and the longest time was only 10 minutes and 7 seconds. In other words, Yin Chu only waited for more than 20 minutes before her first actual combat exercise came. Facing a burly man over 2 meters tall, Yin Chu was not afraid at all. But she did not expect that the man was so eager to fight. She had just walked into the venue when she felt a whistling wind below. A long leg of 1.5 meters swept straight towards her calf. The legendary sweeping leg? Yin Chu sneered and pounced in the direction of the senior brother, and a two-dragon exploration of the pearl went straight to the senior brother's eyes. Senior brother L1,987,522 bent one leg, and his lower body was unstable. In order to avoid the attack of Yin Chu, he sat down on the ground. The next second, Yin Chu's little feet had already thundered and landed on his calf, making a crisp sound. Yin Chu's elbow followed closely, and he hit the senior brother's abdomen with an elbow strike. The burly senior brother groaned and fainted. The referee quickly blew the whistle to signal the end of the fight, and asked someone to carry the students numbered L1,987,522 to the treatment room. Professor Tao Bixi, who had been following Yin Chu through the projection screen, looked at students L1,987,522 who was carried into the treatment room, opened his thin lips and uttered a sentence that couldn't be more vulgar: "There is no firewood in a big mountain, and no branches in a big tree." In other words, you have grown so much flesh in vain, but you can't even beat a little girl. The two researchers behind Professor Tao Bixi were both smart people. They immediately took people to throw this girl into the most remote treatment cabin so that Professor Tao Bixi would not be bothered by it. When Professor Tao Bixi took his eyes off the unlucky students L1,987,522, the winner Yin Chu had already disappeared. She has only completed one of the 5 military events, and there are still 4 waiting for her. Classmate Yin Chu is from a poor family, so she doesn't need to use physical recovery potions. Anyway, she still has plenty of time, lying on a chair to rest, and she can also recover the physical strength that has not been wasted. Poor people must be thrifty. The character that Grandpa Qin Mian gave her cannot be overturned. Yin Chu sat on the chair in the last row with a big horse and a golden knife, silently recovering her physical strength, and by the way evaluating the senior brothers and sisters on the field. You don't know until you see it, and you will be shocked when you see it. The senior brothers and sisters of this class are really excellent. Although they are not as good as George, the monster, there are several senior brothers and sisters who are not inferior to Brad in the 7th grade. When thinking of her own straightforward little friend, Yin-Chu couldn't help but smile like an ant. I wonder if Brad, who is far away in Linksu Star region on a mission, is doing well recently. I will send him a bag of snacks when I have a holiday. After all, she could become Yin-Chu because of this guy's contribution. When Yin-Chu was daydreaming, the battle was almost over. 11 fights took only 2 hours, and half of the contestants were cruelly eliminated. But the organizers did not seem satisfied and immediately arranged a cross-country run that consumed the most physical energy. As soon as the news came out, wailing broke out in the gymnasium. Yin-Chu was as quiet as a chicken, just quietly moving her body. It seems that the physical recovery potion prepared by Yin Yulan for herself can no longer be preserved. Chapter 236 Map. A referee blew the whistle at the right time, and the wailing sound immediately disappeared. The next second, the emotionless machine synthesized voice sounded again. Please hand in your space buckles, and receive your supplies in turn. The supplies include a backpack, a signal gun, a map, a dry food, and some drinking water. Looking at the seniors lining up obediently, Yin-Chu raised his eyebrows without saying a word. After handing in his space buckle, Yin-Chu received a small blue bag that was 40 centimeters long and 50 centimeters high. Inside lay a yellow signal gun, a kindergarten-style map, a small piece of marching dry food, and 2 500 milliliters bottles of drinking water. The synthesized voice echoed in Yin-Chu's ears again. Please check whether the backpacks assigned to you are complete and raise your hands to indicate. After all hands were raised, the synthesized voice sounded again. Please check whether the signal guns assigned to you can be used normally. The next second, thousands of signal shells exploded in the gymnasium. The empty gymnasium was suddenly filled with smoke, and the air was so smoky that it made people feel uncomfortable. Coughs broke out in the gymnasium, and Yin-Chu couldn't help rubbing her nose. 3 minutes to read the map. Start the timer. Yin-Chu was stunned for a moment. She had an illusion. The organizer's main purpose was to check that the signal gun was fake and to make reading the map more difficult. In fact, she accidentally found out the truth. The kindergarten-style map only had 3 shapes: squares, circles, and triangles. A large square represented the gymnasium, a small square represented the supply point, countless large and small circles represented the surrounding mountains, and the triangle represented the destination. The map seemed to be as simple as it could be, but it took a full 3 minutes. If you say there is no trick here, Yin-Chu would never believe it. Yin-Chu raised the map above her head and looked at it carefully under the light. Sure enough, she saw very faint numbers written in those circles. From 132 to 453, the numbers were high and low, which made Yin-Chu feel dizzy, but she couldn't find a pattern. Before she could think clearly, she heard a whistle. With the sound of "Let's go," the seniors in the gymnasium filed out. The bustling gymnasium suddenly became quiet. Yin-Chu carried the small blue backpack and the minimalist map and walked out of the gymnasium slowly. Leaving the smoky gymnasium, facing the sunlight at the door of the gymnasium, everything on the minimalist map became extremely clear. Not only those numbers, but also the subtle differences in the size and color of those circles. Yin-Chu could see them all. Compared with the mountains not far away, those puzzling things suddenly became clear. Those irregular numbers should represent the altitude of the mountains. And the size of the circles is not random, it should also be related to the size of the mountains. So, what about the color of the circles on the map? Does it represent the vegetation coverage rate of the mountains, or the degree of danger? Yin-Chu had no answer, and there was no time to find the answer. From the starting point to the end point, the distance for men is 20 kilometers, and for women is 15 kilometers. According to this standard, Yin-Chu worked hard to calculate and plan 3 routes. Most of the routes are in the canyons between the mountains. And a small part is located in the mountains with light colors and lower heights. Therefore, those mountains with certain heights and darker circles are all mines arranged by the school. After figuring out the key, Yin-Chu put the map into his backpack, tightened his shoelaces, and rushed out like an arrow from a string. Tao Bixie stood at the gate of the first floor of the supply station, looked at her back, and smiled. This skinny girl is not as stupid as I thought. When referee Pang Lei walked out of the gymnasium with his whistle in his mouth, he happened to hear this sentence and couldn't help laughing. Yin Chu is a little thinner, but she is not as skinny as a bamboo pole. Besides, that child is not stupid. I have many 6th graders under my command, and their combat awareness is not as good as hers. I think Professor Tao's requirements are too high. Tao Bixi glanced at him and didn't say anything. Pang Lei, as a militant who keeps an eye on all directions and listens to all directions, clearly read a trace of disgust in Tao Bixi's eyes. Tao Bixi seemed to be saying silently, I say stupid, so I am stupid. How can a mortal like you understand my standards? The smile on Pang Lei's face immediately faded a little, and he didn't want to see Tao Bixi's arrogant face again. Seeing the aircraft coming, Pang Lei jumped on it directly. Then, he chose the position in the innermost corner. Pang Lei originally planned to take a nap on the way, but when he thought of Tao Bixi's eyes, Pang Lei couldn't fall asleep. Isn't it just a level 7 pharmacist? What's so great about it? I am also a level 7 mecha pilot. Have I ever shown off? You despise me for not having enough IQ, but I also despise you for being a scumbag. If you have the guts, fight me. Pang Lei's emotions fluctuated a bit. Even a person like Tao Bixi with high IQ and low EQ could feel the fighting spirit coming from him. So, Tao Bixi sat quietly near the door of the aircraft. The best escape route, is there? Lao Wang, who was driving the aircraft, felt a mysterious and tense atmosphere, and immediately gave enough energy and rushed to the destination without stopping. Fortunately, Lao Wang's speed was fast enough. After a perfect drift, he successfully reached the destination. Seeing the old men getting off the aircraft one by one, Lao Wang wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. As a mature aircraft pilot, it is really too difficult for him. Tomorrow, he must talk to the principal. If he doesn't get a salary increase, he'd better continue to work. After all, the current employment rate is too low. He still has a big family waiting for him to support. Anyway, things like preliminaries don't happen every day. Just hold on, get through this wave, send Tao Bixi back to the laboratory, and send Pang Lei back to the fighting field. Driver Lao Wang silently clenched his fists and refueled himself. After parking the aircraft, Lao Wang immediately asked someone to find out the reason why Tao Bixi and Pang Lei didn't get along. After learning that it was because of a little girl named Yin Chu, Lao Wang decided that he must stay away from this girl in the future. He can't quit, but he can change shifts. Lao Wang is also a talent with an aircraft driver's license and a starship driver's license. Changing shifts, isn't that an easy thing? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, Something Unexpected Happened. If it were a standard venue, a 15-kilometer cross-country race would only take Yin Chu more than 40 minutes. But when this 15-kilometer cross-country race is placed in the wilderness where the map is extremely simple, the route needs to be planned by yourself, the speed becomes a little unpredictable. Not everyone can see the subtlety of the map. But most of the contestants are seniors, including those who love cross-country running and those who know the training stars well. The secret that Yin Chu saw through can only keep her from falling behind 15 kilometers is a long-distance running event, which cannot be rushed. She started a little later, but she was not in a hurry. She took 3 steps and exhaled, and ran forward at a constant speed along the canyon. There are many forks in the road, and everyone has their own choices. Yin Chu moves forward along the path she has planned, and she is not in a hurry at all when she sees fewer and fewer people in front of her. After all, there is no use in being anxious. At the 23rd fork in the road, a senior brother in front turned left. Yin Chu kept the rhythm of breathing in and out every 3 steps, slowly surpassed another senior brother, and was surprised to find that there was no one in front. This was not good news. Yin Chu did not stop, but his hand reached out to the backpack behind him, took out a bottle of drinking water, unscrewed the bottle cap, and drank most of the bottle in 2 or 3 sips. He held the remaining half bottle in his hand, maintained a quick pace, and ran forward towards the route he had planned. Large and small, high and low mountains blocked Yin Chu's sight, and occasionally 1 or 2 roars of star beasts could be heard, near or far. About half an hour later, a dazzling light burst out in the sky behind Yin Chu. She knew that there was not only smoke after the signal gun was fired, and she also knew that she had lost another competitor. But this does not mean that she has won. God knows how many people the organizers want to eliminate by taking this opportunity. Yinchu could only keep his head down and run forward at a constant speed. 10 minutes later, the remaining half bottle of drinking water also went into Yinchu's stomach. Looking at the yellow flag flying on the top of the mountain not far away, and the bright 15 km cross-country finish line on the flag, Yinchu silently cheered himself up. Persistence is victory. But the Alliance Military Academy has finally arranged such a preliminaries. Is it so easy for you to pass? Yinchu obviously thought that school was a little too simple. There is a reason for the saying that you will die if you run too fast. If a tenfold gravity device is buried on the uphill road leading to the finish line, it will be even more difficult. When Yinchu stepped onto the uphill road of only more than 200 meters, the rhythm of breathing in and out for 3 steps was finally disrupted. 1 step, 1 breath, 1 step, 1 breath, dragging a 1,000-pound body, Yinchu climbed up step by step. The speed was not much faster than a snail. The sun was scorching, and Yinchu was soaked with sweat all over her body, but she was unaware of it, and she just moved forward step by step towards her goal. Behind her, a group of people gathered one after another, and when they looked at Yinchu for the first time, they all had some ridicule. But when they set foot on the road behind Yinchu, everyone's expression changed. Other schools are tireless in teaching, only their Alliance Military Academy has never been tired of destroying people. Who has the best skills in cheating people? The Alliance Military Academy is second, and there is no one in the Alliance who can be ranked first. 10 times the gravity device, such an expensive thing, was used by them to play with students. Just tell me, are you angry? But on their territory, what can you do if you are angry? If you have the ability, you can give up the competition. Besides, their school is not only cheating girls, but also boys. When the girls were working hard to climb the mountain, weren't the boys also dealing with the star plants and star beasts driven by the examiners? They are all contestants in the preliminaries, and no one has it easier than the other. The culprit, Mr. Pang Lei Pang, is standing on the top of the mountain at this moment, smiling as he watches his students struggling. It is true that only when there is comparison can there be a sense of happiness. Knowing that everyone is having a hard time, his mood inexplicably suddenly became much better. Yes, it was this militant Mr. Pang who increased the difficulty for the candidates. As for the reason, it was probably because he was not in a good mood and did not want to make others happy. The uphill road of more than 200 meters originally only took 3 minutes, but Yinchu walked for half an hour, setting the slowest speed in her life, which directly exhausted all her physical strength. But when she held the flag fluttering in the wind and heard Pang Lei's voice yell 1,987,521 reach the finish line in 1 hour and 7 minutes, she magically felt that her bottleneck had loosened a little. It seems that Mr. He did not lie to her. It is not so undesirable to spend 3,000 credit points to suffer. Perhaps, after the winter vacation, she should ask William to find a 10-fold gravity device for her. This was the last thought of Yinchu when she fainted. When she woke up, she had returned to the main star. It is said that all contestants who failed to reach the finish line in more than 1.5 hours were eliminated. There were less than 400 contestants who could participate in the last 3 events. It is said that the referee, Mr. Pang Lei Pang, was not satisfied with this. It is also unknown what kind of torment will happen in the following 200-meter standard attack, 1,000-meter obstacle race, and 200-meter practical swimming. As a woman who endures hardship, is patient, is not afraid of death, and is domineering, Yinchu decided to take 2 physical recovery potions first, and then eat 2 nutritious meals before considering this headache. In this regard, Yin Yulan raised both hands and feet to agree. He also said that the potion can be provided free of charge, but the meal must be made by Yinchu herself. Yinchu, resigned to her fate, she cooked 2 meals, ate her fill, and once again set out on the journey to the training star. The gymnasium had changed after one night. The huge swimming pool in the middle clearly told everyone that the first test would be the 200-meter practical swimming, if nothing unexpected happened. But there was no sign of the 4 obstacles. I wonder what the school, or the chief referee Mr. Pang Lei, would do. The huge gymnasium only has 12 lanes. Fortunately, the number of candidates was reduced to 386, otherwise, it would be unknown when the test would end. Fortunately, Yin Chu was ranked in the 8th round. No matter what Pang Lei did, she had the opportunity to observe and the time to think about solutions. The brothers and sisters who were arranged to go into the water in the first batch will suffer a little. Luck is also a part of strength. You can't refuse to accept it. Chapter 238 Senior Brothers and Sisters. Yin Chu could celebrate for too long. The 4 obstacles in the 200-meter practical swimming were set up. The first obstacle was composed of 2 hollow horizontal logs with a diameter of no less than 0.15 meters, fixed at a position perpendicular to the swimming lane and 3 meters apart, floating. It was required to pass from above the first log and below the second log 50 meters away. There was the second obstacle, a raft made of alum material. There were 10-centimeter linings at the front and back ends of the obstacle submerged in water, and it was required to pass under the 3-meter-long raft. The third obstacle was a platform 50 centimeters above the water surface and floating in the water. The platform was 1.2 meters wide, with a maximum thickness of 8 centimeters, and was suspended without a fulcrum. It was required to climb up from the near end of the platform without the help of external force and jump into the water from the far end of the platform. The fourth obstacle was a metal cylinder with a diameter of 1 meter and a length of 1.5 meters. It was required to pass through the middle of the cylinder. Swimming is a physical activity. It is not easy to swim 200 meters. You also need to be able to crawl, drill, jump, and climb. Yin Chu rolled her eyes when she heard this request. But the right to interpret this preliminary competition belongs to the Alliance Military Academy. As a poor student, she has no right to question it at all. Of course, the other contestants present did not have this right and could only stare blankly. A practical swimming competition, with a variety of tricks, is more exciting than the most popular variety show on Star Network. She has good hearing and can even hear the laughter in the monitoring room. Although Yin Chu also thinks it is funny, she can't laugh at all when she thinks that she has also contributed to this performance. The feeling of being treated like a monkey is really terrible. Yin Chu thought that this event was just for the school to edit some tidbits and take them out to earn some clicks and membership fees. But when she saw the pharmacists lined up next to the supply station and the physical recovery potions and nutritional supplements in front of the pharmacists, she knew she was wrong. The school not only had to collect registration fees, live broadcast the preliminaries, and cut behind-the-scenes footage, but they also had to sell them physical recovery potions and nutritional supplements at high prices to make more money. There is no worst, only worse. But the space is in their hands, and they are all buying. What can she do? Of course she bought with them. 2 nutritional supplements and 1 physical recovery potion almost emptied all of Yin Chu's savings. The key is that after taking 3 potions, she didn't feel full. It's amazing. Fortunately, after this bad game, 1/3 of the people were successfully eliminated. The obstacles in the remaining 1,000-meter obstacle race were very traditional. The old-fashioned obstacles were severely peeling, which made Yin Chu's eyes hurt. But no matter how painful it was, she had to cross them one by one. After running this trip, Yin Chu bought 2 more nutritional supplements. Although the price is high, the consumption is too large, so it is necessary to make up for it. The gender gap between men and women leads to a natural disadvantage for girls in this kind of competition. But as a demon known to the whole school, Yin Chu still successfully broke through in this game. As for the 200-meter standard attack relative to accuracy and speed, Yin Chu is not afraid. Although the physical consumption is not small, Yin Chu's young and fragile heart is not hurt again. Because she successfully broke into the top 10 and successfully qualified. Yin Yulan used this incident as a gimmick and hit Yin Chu hard. A sophomore student beat many senior brothers and sisters and successfully qualified, which completely shocked the Alliance Military Academy. This is a living positive teaching material. Teachers represented by Pang Lei have used this incident to knock their students more than once. So that the students of the Alliance Military Academy, especially the senior brothers and sisters of the Mecha Driving Department, look at Yin Chu with a strong resentment in their eyes. Only the seniors who ranked ahead of Yin Chu were a little bit better to her. However, the number of people was a little small. Only 6 people. The first place in this preliminary competition was the top student of the 7th grade of the Alliance Military Academy, Mo Ran from the Command Department. He was different from the other contestants. Everyone took the initiative to sign up for the competition, but he was forced to sign up by the school, under the banner of winning glory for the school, and semi-forced to participate. In the entire Alliance Military Academy, he was the only one who had this special treatment. After all, This guy is lazy. If the school didn't take the initiative to sign him up and didn't remind him to participate, this guy could pretend to know nothing. The second place in this preliminary competition was Moran's good friend, Jin Yu, a 7th-year student of the Alliance Military Academy, and a mecha driving department. He was a monster with excellent physical fitness, even better than Yinshu. Yinshu had reason to suspect that this guy deliberately let Moran win the first place. The third place in the preliminary round is Song Zifan, a 6th-year student in the mecha casting department. Although he is a student in the mecha casting department, he is obviously not doing his job properly. He is much better at mecha driving than mecha casting, and he is also very close to Jinyu. When the two walk together, they are like two iron towers, full of security. The fourth place in the preliminary round is Bai Man, a 6th-year student in the mecha casting department. Unlike people's traditional impression of mecha casters, this student Bai Man has a delicate and gentle appearance, with a side part, and looks more like a commander than the lazy Moran. Although he and Song Zifan are classmates, their relationship is not as good as that of Song Zifan and Jinyu. Compared with Song Zifan, who is not doing his job properly, Bai Man has obviously worked hard on mecha casting. Although he is only in the 6th grade, he is said to have been selected by the Blackwater Army. When the time comes, he will be able to report to the Blackwater Army Mecha Maintenance Department. The 5th place in the preliminary round is Di Mayo, a 7th-year student from the Starship Driving Department. Di Mayo, with blonde hair and blue eyes, has naturally curly semi-long hair, and is as elegant as a nobleman from the Earth era. The first time he saw Yinshu, he sincerely apologized, saying that he shouldn't have stolen a lady's limelight. In this regard, Yinshu could only smile and said nothing. Compared with the nobleman Di Mayo, Yinshu prefers Irina, who ranks 6th in the preliminaries. She is a beautiful woman with silver hair and blue eyes, and a 6th-year student in the mecha driving department. Although this girl has a hot temper, she doesn't have so many twists and turns. Irina, who worships the supremacy of force, has a good impression of Yinshu, who is ranked on par with her. After Yinshu shared snacks with her several times, she even put Yinshu in the position of a close friend. Not only did he give Yinshu a detailed introduction to the top 20, he also specifically reminded Yinshu to be careful of Di Mayo. This noble prince had excessive hormone secretion, and his appetite was outrageous. There were nearly 300 babies in his computer address book, and he didn't know how to distinguish them from each other. Perhaps, this guy had never distinguished them. As long as they were women, they were all the same to him. Chapter 239 Elena. The Alliance Military Quality Competition is an important competition that determines one's life. It is said that the preliminaries video and highlights of the Alliance Military Academy alone have attracted 60 million hits and generated 50 million in revenue for the school. If the preliminaries can attract so much attention, then the hits and revenue of the main competition of the Alliance Military Quality Competition can be imagined. The Alliance Military Quality Competition, which attracts the attention of everyone in the Alliance, must be interesting and entertaining, and must be difficult enough. It is best to fully demonstrate the quality of the participants. More importantly, it must be innovative, otherwise it will be complained by the audience and ridiculed by the whole people. Therefore, the organizers are also extremely embarrassed. But for the sake of credit points, the military has never disappointed the audience, and every year it has presented a wonderful game. I don't know where the school got the news from, saying that the preliminary and semifinals of this competition are held in the form of team competitions. For the honor of the school directly concentrated the students who passed the preliminaries on the training star for special training. As for the students who did not pass the preliminaries, then naturally, we should go back to the main planet and do what we should do. With Elena's popular science, Yinshu has at least met a lot of people. But rich theoretical knowledge and practical experience have to be accumulated slowly during the training period. Not many people were selected, only 50 contestants. There were even fewer girls, including Yinshu and Elena, only 5 in total. In this way, they were divided into 2 groups, Yinshu and Elena, and the other 3. This matter is not Yinshu's fault, but Elena's concept of force supremacy and hot temper, which offended the 3 girls at the bottom of the rankings and dragged down Yinshu, who had been with her for a long time. Is this a side effect of being with Elena? People's hearts are biased. Elena is simple-minded and not difficult to get along with, but Yinshu has no idea about the character and thoughts of those 3 girls. If others want to target him, Yinshu can't use his warm face to stick to others' cold butts. On the contrary, Irina felt a little sorry, and treated Yinchu even better, wishing to take care of all the things that Yinchu was doing. Yinchu was at a loss for words, and could only return the favor and treat Irina even better. The first step, of course, was to send food. After all, Yinchu, who always felt that the nutritional supplements did not make him feel full, what did he want to eat the first time he got the space buckle? Steamed buns, fried dough sticks, pasties, tofu brain, soy milk, preserved egg and lean meat porridge, were lined up in a row. Yinchu had not made a decision yet, but Irina had already made a decision. She decided to become Yinchu's sparring partner, thug, and shield, and she was willing to do it. So, when Dimaya ran to Yinchu to show his presence, Irina grabbed his collar without hesitation and had a detailed talk with him. Looking at the tough Ms. Irina, Yinchu had a smile on his face. He took out the alcohol stove that Yin Yulan had left with her from the space buckle and heated up the food in the space buckle. Although Yinchu could solve this problem by herself, it would be better if Irina could come forward. After all, Dimao's baby was really a bit harsh. There are only a handful of people who can call Tang Fan baby. In addition to her father, Aunt Betty, Aunt Zhao Jingshu, and Marshall's wife Ms. Yao, there has been no fifth person so far. If Dimao dared to call Tang Fan baby, he would definitely be drowned in saliva. But when the noble son Dimao called the ugly and poor Yinchu baby, Yinchu could only bear it. As long as she thought about it, Yinchu felt particularly aggrieved. When she was Tang Fan, she could easily gain the attention and favor of others. Everything she did was reasonable. Even if she made a small mistake occasionally, she could easily get others' understanding. But as Yinchu, she only looks a little mediocre and has a little more persistence in her character, but she is treated very differently. It's fine if you have to fight for everything by yourself, but when you encounter such a thing, you can't explain it clearly. This, damn, face-oriented world. After Irina and Dima had an appointment, they reluctantly fulled their stomachs, and then they gathered and assigned dormitories. The dormitory for 2 people, Yinchu chose Irina without any surprise. There was no way. She was most familiar with this beautiful lady with white skin and long legs. Although they were in the same room, with 2 simple beds facing each other, Miss Irina didn't snore or grind her teeth, and Yinchu felt that she could accept it. At 5 o'clock, Yinchu simply fed Miss Irina, and the 2 walked towards the gymnasium slowly. I thought I came early enough, but I didn't expect to see a humanoid creature on the floor of the gymnasium. That slender body and unruly sleeping posture. If nothing unexpected happened, it should be classmate Mo Ran who is responsible for the command of this game. In fact, while Elena and Dimao were talking, the guy was sitting on the floor of the gymnasium training room, holding a book of contestant information in his hand, flipping through it happily. It was not difficult for Mo Ran, who had S-level physical strength and A-level mental strength, to know the 49 pieces of information. But people are not information, and it is not so easy to become the commander of these 49 people. Humans are best at hiding secrets. Let's not talk about the few people he knows more or less. The playboy Dimao, the fair-skinned, beautiful, long-legged Elena, and the ugly and poor Yinchu, who he doesn't know so well, are probably not as simple as they appear. Don't you see that the playboy Dimao has 300 treasures, but he has never provoked the fair-skinned, beautiful, long-legged Elena? Don't you see that the fair-skinned, beautiful, long-legged Elena, except for the things of the ugly and poor Yinchu, never eats the food given by others? Don't you see that the ugly and poor Yinchu has never taken the playboy Dimao's courtesy seriously, and has never taken advantage of the fair-skinned, beautiful and long-legged Elena, but has become her owner? It can be seen that these people all have their own hidden attributes. As for what the hidden attributes are, how to dig them out, Mo Ran was puzzled. Mo Ran, who had a headache, simply fell on the floor of the gymnasium, covered his face with information, and began to close his eyes to rest. But accidentally. He really fell asleep. And accidentally, he spent the night in the gymnasium. What is diligence and self-consciousness? Mo Ran never knew. He has talent and a different way of practicing from ordinary people. Mo Ran is so willful. Chapter 240 Training. Faced with a willful person like Mo Ran, Yinchu and Elena could only look at each other, change places to do some stretching exercises, and wait for the arrival of their instructor, Mr. Pang Lei Pang. At 7 o'clock, the official class time of the Alliance Military Academy, Pang Lei walked into the gymnasium on time. The timing was just right, not a minute early, not a second late. Seeing the humanoid object in the gymnasium, Pang Lei stretched out his golden right foot without hesitation and made a flying tackle. Seeing that Pang Lei's foot was about to fall on the humanoid object actually rolled over and dodged. Pang Lei's golden right foot landed heavily on the ground, stirring up countless dust. Moran patted his chest and shouted, "That was a close call. That was a close call." Pang Lei snorted coldly and blew the assembly whistle. 5 seconds later, regardless of whether everyone was present or not, Pang Lei spoke directly. "Those standing here are the elites selected by our Union Military Academy through layers of selection, but it does not mean that you all have the opportunity to represent the school in the upcoming Union Military Quality Competition. Please forget all the honors you received yesterday. From now on, you are all rookies receiving training from me. 7 in the morning to 10 in the evening every day is your fixed training time. I do not accept lateness, let alone early departure. If you feel that you can't do it, leave as soon as possible and don't waste each other's time." The contestants standing in the middle of the gymnasium, especially those ranked at the bottom, looked at each other, with pale faces, but no one stood up. Pang Lei was obviously quite satisfied with this result, and his tone was a little better. "Since no one has indicated that they want to quit, I will assume that you have accepted my training plan. I hope you will not regret your choice today. Now, everyone, line up in a column in order of height. At ease, stand at attention, look forward, and run." Although they were full of doubts, they still lined up in a column and ran forward in an orderly manner. 1 lap, 2 laps were still okay, and 5 laps, 10 laps could be sustained. After 15 laps, the team gradually became chaotic. Seeing that 20 laps had been passed, Pang Lei had no intention of calling a halt. The players at the bottom of the rankings began to feel nervous. Just at this moment, Pang Lei spoke, "No one is allowed to fall behind. If one falls behind, everyone will be punished. If one falls behind, run 10 more laps. If 2 fall behind, run 20 more laps. If more than 5 fall behind, half of them will be eliminated." As soon as these words fell, everyone's face changed. The leaders Jin Yu and Song Zifan reacted quickly and slowed down immediately. Bai Man and Di Mao both went in the opposite direction, dragging the laggards to catch up with the team. Although it is human nature to build one's own happiness on the suffering of others. Seeing the arrogant top students running circles like dogs, Pang Lei also felt an inexplicable sense of comfort. But the reason why Pang Lei asked the students to run circles was not to find a sense of superiority. He was seriously training these children. After all, how to adjust the breath and how to save energy in exercise is useless if you just talk about it. Many things have to come from practice. Running. Persistent running. This is what Pang Lei believes is the best way to exercise breath, and even to exercise endurance and endurance. 50 people turned from a column into a circle, running from 7 in the morning to noon, and everyone was soaked all over. Finally, they touched the edge of adjusting the breath and saving energy in exercise. Pang Lei finally announced mercifully, "Rest on the spot." Most of the 50 contestants gathered together and lay down on the ground. Miss Elena, who was fair-skinned, beautiful and long-legged, took out a potion from her space buckle and waved it quickly. "Who wants a potion to restore physical strength? Add 20% service fee, one-on-one service, and it will be delivered directly to your mouth." That posture was quite a bit like Tang Fan's style when he was in the Blue Sea Mecha Academy. Yinju finally understood why she and Elena got along so well. In short, she saw a part of her shadow in Elena. Thinking of the past, Yinju couldn't help but smile. Afraid of being discovered and breaking her character, Yinju quickly lowered her head and started to dig with her space buckle. After a while, she dug out a lot of things. Wet mango sago, fermented glutinous rice dumplings, red bean pudding. Yinju threw them into her mouth silently, and occasionally drank a sip of physical recovery potion. Compared to most people who dragged their stiff bodies like puppets, Yinju behaved exceptionally and successfully attracted all the attention. Feeling the attention of the people around her, Yinju paused and asked symbolically, "Would you like some?" 3 voices immediately rang out in the gymnasium. "Yes." Yinju looked at Elena, Pang Lei and Jinyu, who rushed towards the food in her hand, and couldn't help twitching her mouth. She was just asking symbolically, why are these rich people so unrestrained? Do they have the nerve to eat the food of a poor person like her? In fact, not only did they have the nerve, but Jinyu, who was so thick-skinned, even asked her with a shameless face, "Junior sister, I'm not full, do you have any other food? People are of different classes, and meat is of different levels. The first time she met a man with such a thick skin, Yin Chu was shocked. She wanted to grab his collar and ask him, "Where's your face?" But thinking about the character Qin Mian had set for her, she suppressed her anger and dug out a box of white rice cakes from her space buckle for a long time. She laughed dryly and said, "This is all I have." The three of them didn't mind fighting for it and almost got into a fight. What respect for teachers, what respect for the elderly and love for the young? There is no such thing. Because of this episode, Pang Lei's teacher's dignity was gone, and the lunch break was forced to be increased by several minutes. It can be said that Yin Chu made a great contribution to the team. There is a kind of person in the world who is best at pulling out that ruthless thing, and Pang Lei is obviously very good at this. In the last second, he finished eating the white rice cake, wiped his mouth, took out 3 physical recovery potions from the space buckle and stuffed them into Yin Chu's hand. In the next second, he picked up the whistle and stuffed it into his mouth, blowing it. For this group of students participating in the training, this is tantamount to a call from hell. They struggled to get up from the ground, looking at Pang Lei with eyes full of resentment. They ran, and continued to run. They ran from the scorching sun to the setting sun. They took 2 potions to restore their physical strength, and ran from the setting sun to the dead of night. They drank 2 nutrient pills, and then rushed back to the dormitory like dogs, fell directly on the bed, and fell asleep. Chapter 241 Notice. People have inertia. After getting used to this kind of training intensity, everyone was actually quite adaptable. With Pang Lei as their common enemy, everyone spontaneously united closely around the strongest King Moran. Perhaps, this is another purpose of Pang Lei's tormenting them? However, Yin Chu felt that this kind of sacrifice and dedication was unnecessary. Really unnecessary. Isn't it good to be a normal person? Just when everyone thought they would keep running like this until 1 minute before the start of the game, Pang Lei actually changed his mind. Because the school received a notice from the organizing committee of the competition. The notice is very simple: all military school teams are requested to gather at the planet Zillaman in the Bellman star field on October 12th. In just one line of words, the amount of information in it is so large that Pang Lei cannot accept it. Looking at that line of words, Pang Lei's face suddenly became solemn. 2 or 3 years ago, the Bellman star field was just one of the inferior star fields on the border. But at this stage, it, together with his Iange star field, has been paid attention to by the entire alliance. The reason for the concern is simple. It has lost the habitability conditions that a star field must have, and has become a paradise for mutant creatures. Pang Lei knew without the notification of the organizing committee that the assessment items of this alliance military quality competition must be related to mutant creatures. Huge benefits are accompanied by huge risks. The alliance military quality competition is recognized as the most valuable competition in the entire alliance. Because of its importance, it is directly called the military internal selection meeting. Such competitions have always been difficult, and casualties have occurred from time to time. However, no matter how difficult it is within Pang Lei's understanding. Now, the organizers have come up with a whimsical idea to let a group of students face mutant creatures that the garrison cannot handle. Pang Lei is not sure. He sent this notice to the optical computers of 50 contestants and quietly waited for their own choices. Whether the students choose to participate or withdraw, he respects it. After all, a higher platform is more valued by the military, and the future career may even be smooth sailing. All of this is based on being able to come back alive. And he cannot be responsible for the lives and futures of others. After receiving the notice, the 50 contestants had different reactions. Some were excited, some were afraid, some were determined to go, and some simply backed out. Among the 3 girls at the bottom of the ranking, the petite one even burst into tears. Elena snorted coldly and muttered softly, "You are usually so energetic, but you are like this at the critical moment?" Tisk. After hearing this, Yin Chu looked at Elena deeply. Can't get along. Elena curled her lips. At most it can only be regarded as one-sided dislike. That arrogant look made Yin Chu laugh. Elena suddenly thought of something, pulled Yin Chu's sleeve, and asked hurriedly, "You won't back out, will you?" Yin Chu smiled and shook his head. "Since I'm here, I must go to see the world with you." Elena was satisfied. She patted Yin Chu's shoulder and comforted him. "Isn't it just a mutant? What's so scary? Besides, you can choose any mission after joining the army. In fact, some people can really choose to complete the mission after joining the army. For example, Tang Fan. For example, Ken Yi. But can this be said? Of course, it can only be rotten in the stomach. After all, she is now, and can only be Yinchu. So, Yinchu touched her nose and said nothing. While they were talking, the crying little girl had been supported by 2 friends and returned to the dormitory. In other words, the 3 girls have decided to withdraw from this competition. The departure of the 3 girls made many people make up their minds one after another. Yinchu and Elena turned their eyes to their designated captain, Moran. Moran still looked lazy, leaning on Jinyu, silently watching the various forms of life in the small gymnasium. Not taking the initiative, not refusing, not retaining. Looking at his calm, cool and ruthless face, the air around him seemed to get a little colder. Many contestants who were still hesitant also felt like giving up and slowly walked towards the door. 50 contestants were still running together the day before, but now nearly 1/3 of them had walked out. Moran waited for a long time and found that no one was walking out anymore. He then stood up straight and looked at the 36 people standing sparsely in the huge gymnasium. 36 people? That's a lot more than I expected. As he spoke, his eyes seemed to inadvertently pass over Yinchu and several other contestants who ranked lower. This special treatment was a bit discriminatory and inevitably made people unhappy. Immediately, several more people got angry and left the gymnasium without hesitation. Moran did not try to persuade them to stay, but only looked at Yinchu deeply. Zaya Oksumei, are you sure? Yinchu touched his chin and said with a smile, I heard that only when you are infinitely close to death can you understand the true meaning of survival. I think I can give it a try. There was a bit of surprise in Moran's eyes. He did not say anything to Yinchu, but just clapped his hands and focused everyone's attention on himself. Since everyone has decided, we will be comrades and a team for a period of time in the future. As your captain, I will accompany you, train together, run in together, and jointly analyze the mutant biological information of the planet's element in the Bemin star field in detail, and formulate corresponding combat plans for different organisms and environments. We have a lot of people, and tactics are definitely indispensable. You must be mentally prepared. Moran looks very good, and this smile makes people have the illusion that spring is warm and flowers are blooming, and all things are revived. His voice is steady and powerful, and it gives people an infinite sense of security and confidence, as if as long as he is there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome. Maybe this is the legendary leadership? Yinchu touched his chin and groaned. But the sound was too soft and was perfectly covered by everyone's okay. Moran looked very pleased and said happily, our training starts now. I hope everyone doesn't complain about being tired. Of course, everyone nodded in agreement, and their enthusiasm was extremely high, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The training began again. However, this time, Moran took the lead. Pang Lei did not express any opinions on this and let Moran do it. It must be said that this senior brother Moran is quite capable. Pang Lei had just released the official notice of the competition, but while everyone was hesitating, Moran obtained the data on the planet's element and mutant creatures in the Bemin star field and formulated several plans. Chapter 242 Farewell. Unlike the 4 distinct seasons on Sumer, the weather on Zilliman in the Bemin star field can only be described in one word, hot. On Sumer, the temperature occasionally reaches 40 degrees in summer. But on Zilliman in the Bemin star field, high temperatures of more than 40 degrees are common. Anyone who has tried it knows the taste of being exposed to the sun. In order for the contestants to better adapt to Zilliman in the Bemin star field, Moran cruelly adjusted the temperature of the gymnasium to 45 degrees. In such a high temperature, it is not easy to survive, and you have to keep fighting at all times. Even the top students of the Alliance Military Academy are worried. Yinchu even felt that he was suspected of spending money to suffer, but the harsh words have been dropped, and Yinchu is also a face-saving person. What else can he do except resist? Yinchu didn't do anything, which made Moran uncomfortable. As a sophomore, he signed up for the Alliance Military Quality Competition and said, only when you are infinitely close to death can you understand the true meaning of survival. This doesn't seem like a submissive character. Could this kid be holding back some big move? With such doubts, Moran secretly raised the attention of Yinchu to the highest level. 1 day passed, 2 days passed, and seeing that they were all on the starship, the big move that Moran was worried about did not appear. No matter how worried Moran was, as long as Yinchu did not make any trouble, he could still stay in the participating team and compete with them. At about 7 o'clock in the morning on October 10th, Panglei brought 36 participants of the Alliance Military Quality Competition from the Alliance Military Academy together at the school gate, ready to go. Moran couldn't help but take a closer look at Yinchu in the crowd. Because, at this moment that couldn't be more serious, a little accident happened. A girl with a mushroom-like haircut that couldn't be more rustic ran over crying, hugged Yinchu and refused to let go, yelling, "Take me away. I've been without you for half a month, and I can't live anymore." Oh, Moran's body trembled, and he looked at the girl who was almost nestling in Yinchu's arms in disbelief. "In such a serious occasion, you hugged my team members who were about to go to the school and said such imaginative and misleading words, okay? Didn't you see the meaningful looks people around you gave you?" Moran felt uncomfortable all over, but the parties involved, Yinchu and Yin Yulan, didn't care at all. "Be good. Stop it. It's just half a month. Just bear with it and it will be over." Yinchu's words successfully startled Moran, and he let out a long series of uncomfortable coughs. Elena couldn't sit still anymore. She patted Yinchu's shoulder and asked, "Who is this girl?" Everyone's eyes were focused on Yinchu. They all wanted to know the answer. Yinchu rubbed Yin Yulan's head and said with a smile, "My sister. I went to train for half a month. She didn't have enough food and got angry." This answer was too standard. So many people lowered their heads and confessed their unlimited imagination. Such a great sisterly love, how could they think of it like this? This is not good. Look at Elena, she doesn't think so. She asks whatever she wants. After asking, she imitates Yinchu and rubs Yin Yulan's head affectionately. "Hello. I'm your sister's friend, Elena." Yin Yulan looked at Elena deeply and muttered, "Another one who is trying to steal my food." Elena heard it carefully, but did not refute it. Instead, she rubbed Yin Yulan's head and said with a smile, "What nonsense are you talking about?" After hearing this, Yin Yulan raised her head from Yinchu's arms. "I like this little sister." Yinchu sighed. "Can she compare to Xia Longbao?" Yin Yulan lowered her head silently. Elena actually understood these two meaningless conversations, and her eyes changed immediately when she looked at Yin Yulan. "You are not even as good as Xia Longbao? How can you say you like her? It's so hurtful." Understanding the look in Elena's eyes, Yin Yulan quietly defended himself. "Kyukia's braised pork buns are super delicious. The kind that comes in a basket of 10. I can eat a basket at a time." Elena's eyes lit up, and she looked at Yinchu with burning eyes, her eyes full of desire for Xia Longbao. Surrounded by foodies, Yinchu slapped Yin Yulan on the head and said unhappily, "You are already an adult. Please try to accept the food in the cafeteria and the porridge cooked by Xio." Then he looked at Elena and explained seriously, "I am tired like a dog every day, and I don't have time to make Xia Longbao." The eyes of the two foodies immediately dimmed. Seeing this, Yinchu had a headache. "I'll make it for you when I come back, okay?" Yinchu immediately received two heads nodding like pounding garlic. Yin Yulan was immediately revived to full health, and took out a lot of potions from his space buckle. "This is a physical recovery potion. I know you need a lot, so I made some more. Is 100 enough for you for half a month? This is a mental recovery potion. I don't know if you can use it, so I made some symbolically. 12 in a dozen. You can take it for emergency use. These are nutrient supplements of various flavors. Although they can't make you feel full, they can keep you from starving. Who knows if the examination hall will provide food." The little girl took out potions like they were free. Although they were all low-level potions, she prepared a wide variety of potions in large quantities. After hearing that these potions were made by Yinchu during the training star, everyone looked at Yin Yulan with different eyes. Why don't they have such a considerate and potential quasi-pharmacist sister? Even if she is a little rustic and greedy, as long as she prepares potions for them, they will accept it. Amidst the envious and jealous gazes, Yinchu methodically put the potions prepared by Yin Yulan into her own space buckle one by one, and assigned homework. "When you have time, study the purification technology of physical recovery potions. I think that physical recovery potions with a concentration of 2 to 3 times may be more suitable for me." Yin Yulan nodded obediently. Amid the gasps of the people around her, Yinchu patted her head and smiled, "Be good. Wait for me to bring you some specialties." Yin Yulan nodded obediently again. The contrast between the before and after was so great that everyone was stunned. Is it really okay to expose the behavior of coaxing those who stutter so nakedly in front of everyone? Is it okay? Afterwards, someone really used steamed dumplings to coax Yin Yulan. But she didn't buy it at all. Sugar-coated bullets or something. The operation of eating the sugar coating and sending the bullets back, Yin Yulan played too much? Chapter 243, Zilliman Planet. October 11th, the starship of the Alliance Military Academy finally landed at the port of Zuiman in the Bemin starfield. As soon as the hatch opened, a wave of heat hit them. Pang Lei gritted his teeth and led the contestants of the Alliance Military Academy to step onto this hot land. Yin Chu was dragged by Elena and walked at the back. Facing the heat wave, he looked up and saw the military camp not far ahead. It was not a simple tent, but a building that rose from the ground, just like a small military base. It can be seen that this place was once prosperous. Yin Chu was very satisfied with this. What made her even more satisfied was that she saw a whole legion of troops stationed in this once prosperous military base. What does this mean? This means that even if they have to face mutant creatures, they can get help from the troops instead of being isolated and helpless. This means that the organizers did not mean to let them die. It was really good news that Pooh was overjoyed. Just as they walked to the edge of the port, Yin Chu was surprised to find that the guy who came to greet them looked so familiar. It seemed like her childhood sweetheart, Comrade Brad. But wasn't Brad in Linksu Star region on a mission? Could he have left his post without permission? Or, under the leadership of George, this naughty kid secretly planned some big move? Taking advantage of the time when everyone went upstairs, when she and Brad passed by each other, she gently pulled his sleeves twice. A note slipped down from Brad's sleeve and was gently stuffed into the palm of Yin Chu. Then, this guy left without any nostalgia. Looking at Brad's chick back, Yin Chu couldn't help but push his back teeth. As the time of arrival was very late, not to mention the limited rooms, they had to hurry to confirm the venue. After Pang Lei led the team to open the room, he gave everyone half an hour to wash and asked them to go downstairs together. As the only two ladies in the team, Yin Chu and Elena enjoyed special care and were assigned to the only double room. While Elena was taking a shower, Yin Chu secretly glanced at the note and immediately put it into the space buckle. But the words written by the iron hook and silver painting had already been imprinted in Yin Chu's mind. It turned out that Brad was not absent from his post, but was forcibly transferred from the Blackwater Army by the military in the name of protecting the participants of the Alliance military quality competition. He was transferred, but whether he could go back or not, I'm afraid only God knows. Pang Lei didn't give much time. Elena took a combat shower on time. When she walked out of the bathroom with a bath towel around her, Yin Chu was still staring at the floor in a daze. It was not until Elena patted her shoulder that she came back to her senses reluctantly. When she walked into the bathroom, Yin Chu found that the wet vest and short-sleeved shirt were taken off, and a stream of water came out when she squeezed it out. She turned on the shower directly, and after taking a shower, she also rinsed her clothes from inside to outside. When she returned to the bedroom, changed into the school uniform issued by the school, and looked at the light computer, it was already 9:25. As a punctual person, Yin Chu quickly grabbed Elena's hand and ran downstairs. Yin Chu originally thought that at this time, there would not be too many participants who confirmed the venue. However, when he and the team arrived at the venue, he was shocked. The gymnasium, which can accommodate 30,000 people, was full of people inside and outside. It's not that everyone came late like the Alliance Military Academy and could only choose this time to confirm the venue. Instead, the only remaining commercial street in the Belmont Star region is right next to the gymnasium. It's past 9 o'clock in the evening, and the nightlife here has just begun. After confirming the venue, it's not good to have a skewers or something? No objection means agreement. Grab a bunch of skewers in your hand, and you can get a skewer with one skewer. It smells so good. As for what kind of meat the skewers use? Is it important? Anyway, just in case, they have decided to drink the detoxification potion as soon as they return to the dormitory. So, boss, 2 more cups of coconut milk tea. That cake looks good. You can also try pilaf. What does the baked bun taste like? I must try it. It tastes delicious, and I can bring some back as a gift for Yin Yulan. The participants of the Alliance Military Academy merged into the crowd of people on the planet Zilliman in the Bemin star field, forming a new national integration with the participants of other schools. As for how many people heard Pang Lei's gather at the entrance of the gymnasium at 11 o'clock in the evening, only God knows. The irritable old Pang scratched his hair, sent a message to the light brain group of his 36 children, and then plunged into the crowd. In the end, there was only one person who was late. Teacher Pang Lei Pang, who was eating with oil dripping from his mouth. Zilliman's snacks are so delicious. So, that night, all the contestants of the Alliance Military Academy slept late. So, getting up late was also expected. Fortunately, everyone did not forget to take the antidote, and their bodies were strong, and there were no side effects such as diarrhea. I didn't dare to continue to hang out in the commercial street outside, so I consciously ate the nutritional supplements provided by the organizer and hurried to the venue. The 58 military academies of the entire Alliance finally gathered when the Alliance Military Academy arrived on time. The number of people was much more than Yinju expected. Especially the capital military academy next door, the number of participants was more than double theirs. This discovery made Yinju frown. Elena noticed her emotions, patted her hands, and whispered, "People are more valuable than quantity." Yinju did not comment on this, but silently turned his eyes to their command. Moran leaned on Jinyu's shoulder, with a sleepy look, and it was unknown whether he had noticed the current situation. Encountering such a commander, Yinju felt a little tired. When facing the pre-match mobilization of the organizer, which had not changed much for many years, Moran even secretly made up for a nap. Fortunately, when the referee walked onto the podium, this guy finally slept enough, stretched his waist, and sat up straight. When Moran cast his eyes on the referee, he felt bad. Because the referee's surname was also Mo. What's more, this handsome, elegant, and dignified middle-aged man is his biological father. In an age when everyone is competing for the father's favor, his biological father has a unique hobby, to cheat his children. If there is any inside story in this game, such as a black whistle, he believes that he will definitely be the first victim. Moran looked at the man who shouted the whistle and walked over. His face, which was 50% similar to his, became darker than the bottom of a pot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Rules of the Game. The referee who was walking slowly towards the podium seemed to have sensed Moran's sharp gaze, turned his head, and gave him a polite smile. The next second, the whistle in his mouth made a harsh sound. After 3 whistles, the whole audience fell completely silent. The referee Mogiki then slowly spoke. The first game of the Alliance Military Quality Competition, Survival Competition. Objective: under the full supervision of the organizer, the participants do not carry any space items, rely on the survival items provided by the organizer, and survive on the Black Rock planet in the Ampu Star region for 72 hours. This task is difficult, but it is also relatively simple. However, will the organizer let the contestants go so easily? Obviously. Impossible. Mogiki slowly extended a finger and announced loudly, Rule 1 of the competition. If a participant withdraws from the competition midway, the results of the competition will be cancelled. The reasons for withdrawal include but are not limited to, the student actively applies to the referee to withdraw from the competition, the teacher in charge announces the withdrawal, the student withdraws from the competition due to injury, the illegal use of space items, the damage of the team's camera equipment, etc. This rule is too normal and can't cause any waves. All the teams are as quiet as chickens. Mogiki smiled evilly and added, in addition, the event organizer has the right to forcibly recall any team or student. The requested party must obey orders and commands, and the event organizer will give corresponding explanations after the game. If there is a violation, the participating students will not be allowed to participate in this event for life, and the participating schools will not be allowed to participate in various league-level competitions within 3 years. As soon as the voice fell, the whole audience was in an uproar. Such a rule is too overbearing, right? No need for any reason. You have to stop if I tell you to stop. You have to withdraw if I tell you to withdraw. If you don't listen, you will get out of the competition permanently. You don't treat the contestants as human beings at all. Mogiki looked around with eagle eyes, and only stretched out his second finger when the discussion gradually stopped. Rule 2 of the competition, contestants can obtain points in 2 ways while ensuring their own safety. First, by hunting the star-planted star beasts inherent to the Black Rock planet, and obtaining points according to the level and completeness. Level 1 star-planted star beasts, 10 points. Level 2 star-planted star beasts, 20 points. And so on. Second, Find the special scorecards made by the contestant to obtain points. Red cards, 10 points. Orange cards, 20 points. Yellow cards, 30 points. Green cards, 40 points. Blue cards, 50 points. The final ranking of the competition is determined by the number of points the team has. In the absence of space equipment, taking star-planted star beasts as points? I'm afraid the organizers have some misunderstanding of everyone's strength. We, with our bare hands, are the prey of star-planted star beasts. As for the scorecard, especially the blue card that can be comparable to the level 5 star-planted star beast, who knows where it is placed? Before everyone could come to their senses, Mogiki had already raised his third finger. Rule 3 of the competition. If the micro camera worn by the contestant is damaged for any reason, 100 points will be deducted. For any reason? Yinchu narrowed her eyes. Like her, many people understood the organizer's deep meaning. They do not prohibit fighting between teams. In other words, the contestants must not only resist the hunting of the star plant and star beast, but also be careful of their compatriots. Who knows, will someone use the guise of reasonable use of the rules to actually do evil? Mogiki paused, and then jumped up and said, the organizer reminds the contestants that life is the most precious. We prohibit the killing of compatriots. Please pay attention to the degree of your actions. Violators will not only face the punishment given by the above-mentioned event organizers, but will also be subject to sanctions from social laws. This sentence directly made Yinchu laugh. Pay attention to the degree of action? This is a joke. When fighting, who can pay attention to the degree? Encourage fighting, prohibit killing? The organizers might have a brain problem. But the right of interpretation is in their hands. As a participant, there are only two choices, accept or quit. She is counting on breaking through the bottleneck in this competition. What can she do? Of course, she can only accept it. When Yinchu was thinking about it, Mogiki had already raised 4 fingers. Rule 4 of the competition, the organizer will release various survival supplies and weapons from time to time. Please cherish them. This is the only humane rule in the competition rules. Yinchu reluctantly pulled the corners of her mouth, but her expression was not much better than crying. Elena patted her shoulder and whispered, the competition rules of the Alliance military quality competition have always been perverted. You will get used to it after participating in it a few more times, okay? She has too little experience. It's better to listen carefully to the tasks issued by others. Mogiki's voice rang again. Please ask the teachers of each team to come out and collect the contestant number cards, camera equipment and survival items. Pang Lei took a brisk step and landed in the center of the gymnasium in a chic manner, and quickly rushed to the small square table next to the rostrum. On the way, he also had some intimate contact with the teachers of the 2 participating teams. Even so, when he arrived at the destination, Teacher Pang still ranked 7th. Compared with the rules introduced by Mogiki, everyone seemed to be more accustomed to the teachers coming and going, and there was no ripple in their hearts. Some people even made bets on the side, betting on the ranking of their own teachers. You are so naughty, do your teachers know? Pang Lei ranked high and signed quickly. After the staff counted all the supplies, they stuffed them into the space buckle, brought them back quickly, and distributed them to the students. Hurry up and find a place to clean yourself up, check all the equipment, and if there is anything wrong, take it to them to exchange it. The hot-tempered teacher Pang, nagging, really made people a little uncomfortable for a while. The organizer can be said to be quite considerate. They only paid a registration fee of 3,000 credit points, and the organizers did not suffer any loss. They gave them a set of light-colored training clothes of ordinary quality, a pair of thick-soled military boots, a marching backpack, 3 bottles of drinking water, and a signal gun. From the perspective of survival resources alone, the water reserves are sufficient as long as they drink sparingly. But there are no food resources at all, although they can survive by starving for 7 days. However, the star plant star beast will not let them survive for 72 hours. What's more, they have to guard against those compatriots who stab them in the back. They need to be ready to fight at all times, resist hunger, and replenish energy. Yinchu tried hard to recall the star plant star beast of the Black Rock planet in the Ample Star domain, but this knowledge point was too biased and she had no idea in her mind. Chapter 245 Preparation. Everyone changed into special light-colored training uniforms, wore special thick-soled military boots, brought miniature cameras, and carried marching bags. When they returned to the gymnasium, their optical computers collectively lit up. All the information about the special star plants and star beasts of the Black Rock planet in the Ampu star region, which Yinchu could not remember no matter how hard he tried, was now gathered on their optical computers. There are not many species, only about 20, but they are not common species. The difficulty of collecting should be quite high. The sender was not teacher Pang Lei Pang, but the captain who had always been lazy classmate Moran. This made Yinchu couldn't help but look at Moran more. As if feeling the gaze of Yinchu, Moran turned his head to look at her, smiled and didn't say anything. Until this time, Moran still couldn't see through this little junior sister, but he believed for no reason that as long as she was willing, she could rely on her own ability to last for 72 hours and achieve a good result. For this inexplicable intuition, Moran was willing to provide more help to this junior sister. After all, this is a team competition. Eye contact confirmed. This is a friendly person. Yinchu sat down quietly, waiting for the organizer's next notice. The organizer, to be precise, the referee Mogiki, did not disappoint Yinchu. He quickly announced the last point of attention, or supplementary matters. Participants can choose 3 items, only one of each item, carry it with you, and enter the Black Rock planet. Other items, all put into the space buckle, waiting for the staff to check and seal. It seems that the organizer did not block the way for the participants. Yinchu lowered her head and took out 3 items from her space buckle, a water purifier she specially made, a bag of 500 grams of salt and a pair of Tang swords. Moran only glanced at it, and he was sure in his heart that his intuition was not wrong. If only one of the participating team members of the Alliance Military Academy can survive, it is still unknown who can survive to the end between him and this junior sister. After all, the weapon that the junior sister took out is not simple. Tang sword, the standard weapon of the Earth era. The handle is very long and is usually held with both hands. The chopping is extremely fierce. The blade is small and shaped like a plum blossom. The blade is narrow and straight, and the blade is thick, sharp, and durable. Such a weapon is specially designed and carefully crafted. I guess that knife skill should be the family heirloom of the junior sister. Look at the water purifier and salt again, and think about the words of the junior sister of the pharmacy department before leaving the Sumerian starfield. In the next 72 hours, the one who lives the most comfortably must be the junior sister Yinchu. As a smart person, Moran happily decided that he must follow this junior sister for the next 72 hours. He arched his hands to Yinchu, and Yinchu was stunned for a second and nodded slowly. Tacit understanding, reached. So, without considering the problem of drinking water and food, Moran silently took out 2 uniquely shaped potions and a longbow with sharp blades on both ends from his space buckle. Yinchu was stunned at first, and then smiled. She seemed to have underestimated the fighting power of the senior brother. Jinyu looked at what Moran took out and opened his mouth wide. Are you just going to stop eating and drinking? Moran rolled his eyes silently. Have you ever lacked food and drink in all these years? This made a lot of sense, and Jinyu was speechless for a while. His hands involuntarily wandered between the nutrients and the medicine until Song Zifen patted his shoulder and pursed his lips at the luggage at the feet of Yinchu. Jinyu finally understood and put his hands on the medicine unwaveringly. As good friends, the medicine in Jinyu's hand and Moran should be from the same school, and the shape is particularly unique. To be precise, it is particularly large. But the colors of the medicines at the feet of the 2 people are not the same, and the effects should also be different. Although the specific effects are unknown, Yinchu inexplicably felt a lot more relieved. As a senior brother of the mecha driving department, Jinyu's fighting power is unquestionable. The weapon he chose was also a knife, but not a delicate Tang sword, but a modeo that was as tall as him, with a long handle and a wide blade. Yinchu felt her eyes brighten just by looking at the cold light on the blade. Perhaps, after waiting for a game to end, she could find an opportunity to compete with a senior brother Jinyu. Song Zifen, who hinted at Jinyu at the right time, only took a potion. Because he had to bring 2 weapons, a huge iron hammer and a 1.5 meter high shield with a purple iris pattern. Yinchu felt that it was too heavy just by looking at it. If Song Zifen looked just struggling, then the handsome classmate Baiman was carrying a hammer that was not much smaller than Song Zifen, which was simply an eye-catching sight. But the person involved didn't feel anything at all. Carrying the sledgehammer and 2 large buckets of water, he seemed to be fine. Next to him, the self-proclaimed elegant noble Sun Dimiao had already secretly moved several steps, trying hard to pretend that he didn't know Baiman. He held two special nutrients in one hand and a western sword in the other. The sword was extremely simple and beautiful, but no one knew how powerful it was. Although they were both swords, the English broadsword in Elena's hand was obviously much more practical. The English broadsword was 3 feet long and simple in shape. There was a lead-filled ball at the end of the cross-shaped brass handle to maintain the balance of the wrist when slashing hard. The sword had 2 edges, and if the attack missed, you could hit back without turning your wrist. Seeing Yin Chu looking over, Elena made a sword flower with one hand, which was chic and generous. Before Yin Chu had time to flatter Elena, the staff had already walked in front of her. The staff did not raise any objections to her water purifier, and only frowned at the 500-gram bag of salt, and then handled it with care, but her pair of Tang swords never passed the test. Yin Chu reluctantly put one of the Tang swords back into the space buckle and handed it to the staff with both hands. Seeing Yin Chu's reluctant look, Elena smiled unkindly. She simply threw her space button to the staff, waved the English broadsword in her hand, and pointed at the 2 giant potions on the ground. Elena was indeed much more cool than Yin Chu. However, when Yin Chu opened her red lips and slowly uttered, "I'm in a bad mood, and there are no more dumplings," Elena panicked. She hurriedly stuffed the potion into her bag, grabbed Yin Chu's sleeve, followed her, and poured out nice words as if they were free. She looked so cowardly. The coolness was gone. Chapter 246 Command. Elena came to her on her own, so Yin Chu naturally wouldn't be polite. She still looked indignant, rubbing Elena's naturally curly short hair with one hand, as if she was interpreting an action with actual actions, cooking. Elena was dizzy and staggering because of Yin Chu cooking, but she dared not say anything. After all, in the next 72 hours, she would have to rely on this girl to cook her food and drink. Even if Yin Chu was cooking Elena, her eyes were not idle. She looked around at the team members behind her, trying to observe the private goods they brought, and finally came to a conclusion: everyone had prepared food and drinks more or less. As an amateur cook, she only needed to be responsible for Moran, Jin Yu, Song Zifan, and Elena. This was an affirmation of her identity as a mecha pilot, and Yin Chu gladly accepted it. However, this scene was not very beautiful in Moran's eyes. They were all students of the mecha casting department of the Alliance Military Academy. Why was the gap between people so big? Song Zifan is so smart and perceptive that he even reminded Jin Yu, the idiot, to bring enough medicine. And Bai Man, who was carrying 2 large buckets of drinking water, was no different from an idiot in Moran's eyes. Is it a pity to be disappointed in someone? Moran boarded the starship with this resentment. Zilliman is not big, but it is not small either. At least, it is no problem to accommodate these 58 teams and 3,000 people. In order to provide everyone with a relatively fair competition environment, the organizer directly got 58 small starships and sent each team directly to different territories on Zilliman. Seeing that there were no outsiders around, the Captain Moran finally exploded. We have one more qualifying round than all the other teams, which ensures the overall quality of our team. As long as we are united enough, I believe we can make it to the end. But what did you do? When you were choosing the items, did you pay attention to what your teammates chose? Moran's eyes swept over his teammates, and even sneered when he saw the drinking water in Bai Man's hand. Most of the team members lowered their noble heads, but Bai Man looked at Moran with a confused face. Facing Bai Man's reaction, Moran couldn't help rubbing his temples and continued, "Please remember, this is a team game, and the most important thing in a team game is cooperation. We have a water purifier, we have salt, we have enough weapons, and we don't even lack potions. What we lack is trust in our teammates. Cooperate with your teammates and trust your teammates. Only if you win this team game can you have a platform to play your personal abilities. Remember." The team members looked at each other and said in unison, "Remember." Moran said something that hit the nail on the head. Only if you win this team game can you have a platform to play your personal abilities. If you don't want to be eliminated in the first round of the Alliance military quality competition, you have to cherish your own and your teammates' lives. Even if the opponent is a pig teammate, you have to try your best to stop the opponent from giving away heads. Hearing the unanimous answers from his teammates, Moran's expression looked a little better. After arriving at the destination, solve the problem of the temporary camp as soon as possible. The players ranked 8 for 36 will be divided into 6 groups according to their rankings. And Bai Man will be added to Yin Chu's group. Yin Chu will lead the team to guard the camp, and I, Jin Yu, Song Zifan, Elena, and Demeo will lead the team to find water and food separately. If I unfortunately have an accident, the command will be handed over to Song Zifeng and Yinchu. Do you understand? I understand. This time the voice was obviously much smaller. Moran couldn't help but frown and raised a few decibels. Do you understand? Everyone finally recovered and said in unison, I understand. However, there was a little more inquiry in the eyes looking at Yinchu. Yinchu didn't like this look, but she never dodged it, which made Moran, who had been observing her, very satisfied. The team members are dismissed on the spot and return to their respective rooms to wait. The captain comes to my room and has a simple meeting. Yinchu followed Jinyu, Song Zifeng, Elena, and Demeo into Moran's room numbered 1. The door was gently closed by Moran. Please sit down, Demeo gestured to the two ladies. Elena sat on one of the only 2 sofas in the room without hesitation. Yinchu sat on the armrest of the sofa next to Elena. Jinyu pulled Song Zifeng and sat on Moran's bed. Demeo looked at the remaining sofas, beds and floors, a little hesitant. Moran smiled and directly occupied the sofa, leaving him there. Before Demeo could come to his senses, Moran spoke, as the second commander, Junior sister, please introduce yourself and make some logistical arrangements. Yinchu touched his back teeth and clicked his tongue. I'm really flattered that Senior Moran has entrusted me with such an important task. What I want to say is, the problem of drinking water must be solved as soon as possible. I cannot guarantee that the area assigned to us by the organizer is upstream of the water source. If it is downstream, and the opponent happens to have a pharmacist, or enough paralysis potions, before Yinchu had finished speaking, the others present could not help but shudder. Moran nodded, this is indeed the biggest problem. Are there any others? Yinchu tapped his palm and continued, I don't know much about the plants and animals on the planet Zilliman. According to the information given by Captain Moran, there are the following types of star plants and star beasts that are suitable for consumption. Level 2 star beast, thorny fish. Level 2 star beast, Zilliman bamboo partridge. Level 4 star beast, iron-skinned pig. Level 1 star plant, fragrant leaf thatch. Level 2 star plant, black-spotted foxtail. The more of the above, the better. In addition, there is a classmate from the logistics department in the 5th team. I need to replace him to ensure the construction of the camp. Moran looked at Demeo, who shrugged without any concern. You decide. I will obey the arrangements of the leaders unconditionally, Moran said lightly. Then I will exchange Baiman with you for Song Jian. Demeo's body shook. You promised to assign Baiman to Yinchu's team, and now you go back on your word. It's not good. Jinyu couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. This laughter was very contagious. Song Zifeng and Elena also laughed. Demeo's nobleman's skin was completely exposed, and he simply sat down on the ground, hugged Yinchu's thigh, and begged, Xia Oxumei, please have mercy and take Baiman, the iron fool. This guy is good at brute force. But it's harder than climbing to the sky to make him use his brain. I really can't accept it, senior brother. Chapter 247 Volcano. The ancients were not deceiving me. Distance really creates beauty. Once the distance is too close, such as being hugged by someone's thighs, people will have some unharmonious impulses. For example, kicking the other person in the face. Yinchu pursed her lips, tried to suppress her temper, and said coldly, let go. The little girl's voice was not loud, but the deterrent power was sufficient. Demeo did not dare to continue to be naughty, and silently let go of his hand. Elena glanced at Demeo and said lightly, there are no useless players in the world, only leaders who cannot know how to use people. Mr. Johnson, your leadership needs to be further improved. Demeo swallowed his saliva, supported himself on the ground with his hands, and silently moved a few steps to leave Elena's attack range. The distance was pulled away, and Yinchu finally felt comfortable. Switch the player with the highest attack power to Mr. Demeo Johnson. He needs an opponent with stronger attack power more than I do. If other teams need to change players, that's fine. Moran glanced at Jinyu and Song Zifeng, and said in a deep voice, it's already very difficult for me that a team leader needs to learn leadership skills. Jinyu and Song Zifeng quickly agreed tactfully, we don't need it. We don't need it. Demeo's face suddenly became darker than the bottom of a pot. He just didn't want to take over Baiman, so why was he dissed by all the members? Is it necessary? Demeo had a bitter face and couldn't speak. He and Xia Oxumei are both team leaders. Why is there such a big difference in their treatment? Is it because Xia Oxumei can cook? Humph. When he gets back, he will immediately sign up for a cooking class. Just when the male was considering which cooking class was better, the starship had gradually slowed down. A planet with a grayish-white background, black stripes, and a little bit of fiery red appeared in front of everyone. Yinchu raised the optical computer and pointed it at the planet in front of him, and took a few photos. Mo-Ran directly turned on the video recording device of the optical computer and recorded the entire process of the planet. Yinchu looked at the red dot getting closer and closer to him, frowned. Our plan may have to be adjusted. Mo-Ran nodded. This is not your problem, it's just that the organizer chose a good place for us. The Black Rock planet only has one volcano, and it was assigned to them by the organizer. What can they do? Of course, accept it. Goodbye, Thornfish. Goodbye, Zilliman Bamboo Partridge. Goodbye, Iron Pig. Goodbye, Fragrant Leaf Grass. Goodbye. Goodbye, Black Spot Glutinous Rice. What is around the volcano? Rock Giant? Fire Puppet? Can these things be eaten? If not, how can she maintain her combat effectiveness in the next 72 hours? When she thought of this, Yinchu's expression became very ugly. As if knowing what Yinchu was thinking, Mo-Ran silently patted her shoulder. If there is a chance, go ahead. If there is no chance, create an opportunity and go ahead. There will be bonefish, there will be bamboo partridges from Zilliman, there will be iron pigs, fragrant leaf grass, and black-spotted pufferfish. Yinchu pursed her lips and whispered, now, the first priority should be dust prevention. Mo-Ran and Yinchu looked at each other and said in unison, backpack, although it is very likely to face points deduction, what can we do? Survival is always the first priority. Mo-Ran looked at Yinchu and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Can this task be given to you? The moment their eyes met, Yinchu read a sentence from Mo-Ran's eyes. Can you complete the operation of turning a backpack into a mask? What a joke. What can't a poor person from a level 9 planet do? Yinchu glanced at the backpack behind him and raised 3 fingers. At least 3 backpacks for 36 masks. This deal is worth it. Mo-Ran immediately put down his backpack and emptied all the contents to Jinyu. Then he signaled Song Zifeng and email with his eyes. The two looked at each other and immediately took action. The 3 backpacks were handed over to Yinchu. Yinchu stretched out his palm towards Mo-Ran. Dagger. The matter-of-fact tone made Jinyu gasp. Even Song Zifeng couldn't help but look up to Yinchu. In the entire Alliance Military Academy, this girl was the first one who could be so rude to Mo-Ran. Mo-Ran looked at Yinchu deeply and obediently went to find a dagger for her. As an excellent commander, Mo-Ran knew the configuration of his team members very well. In less than a minute, he brought the person and the dagger to Yinchu. Unfortunately, Yinchu did not appreciate Mo-Ran's good intentions. The dagger was left behind, but the person was not used. The dagger in Yinchu's hand flew a few times quickly, and a simple square mask with 2 ears appeared in front of everyone. Yinchu handed the mask to Elena and said with a smile, try it. Elena took it and tried it. It's a bit tight. Yinchu nodded and handed another mask over. Elena tried it again and nodded with satisfaction. With experience, Yinchu acted much faster. Elena stared at the pile of masks and Yinchu's dancing hands, and asked curiously, don't you use a knife? Yinchu's hand paused and whispered, a flying knife is also a knife. Elena looked at her deeply, and then looked at the Modeo behind Jinyu. Jinyu noticed something, tightly protected her Modeo, and said coldly, don't even think about it. Yinchu pretended to know nothing and concentrated on making her mask. The starship has landed for a long time, but the contestants of the Alliance Military Academy stayed in their rooms, as if they had taken root. It was not until the broadcast on the starship began to send out urging messages that Mo-Ran reluctantly took the mask and knocked on the doors. Although Mo-Ran had prepared himself mentally, when he really set foot on this land, he was almost pushed down by the heat wave. Mo-Ran, who has always been calm and composed, took 2 steps back and couldn't help but burst out, I'll go. Yinchu walking behind him, Mo-Ran felt the strange gaze of Yinchu, put his fist on his lips and coughed, and quickly changed the subject. The mask can only prevent dust, but it can't isolate the scorching temperature here. The drinking water distributed by the organizer is obviously not enough, and we must find a water source as soon as possible. Yinchu frowned, feeling the temperature that is much higher than that of Zilliman. The things in the information and the feeling of coming in person are completely different. It is shallow to learn from books, and you must practice it to know it. I think that the red part in the photo located in the northeast of the black rock planet should be a volcano. Moran nodded. Since it is called a black rock planet, the black part, if nothing unexpected happens, should be rock. Elena raised her eyebrows. What about the grayish-white? Volcanic ash. Yinchu pursed his lips and felt that finding water source suddenly became a long and arduous task. Chapter 248, The Dead Horse. The sky around was gray and the air quality was particularly poor. After a while, everyone's masks were covered with the gray-white particles, which should be volcanic ash floating in the air. Even through the thick military boots, you can feel the heat of the soil under your feet. Everything shows that this place is not suitable for long. Moran immediately led the team to disperse in the southwest direction. Climbing up a continuous black mountain range, looking into the distance, as expected, in the northeast direction, I saw a huge volcano with billowing smoke on top. Directly below the volcano, there are patches of hot magma lakes. The dazzling flames shot up into the sky, lighting up this gray planet. Moran lifted his mask, raised his head and took a few sips of drinking water, frowning at the volcano in the distance. From time to time, coughing sounds were heard from the participating students around, not knowing whether it was because of the dust or the hot temperature. In this environment, can you survive for 3 days? If you can't find food and drink, I'm afraid that in 3 hours, someone will cry and shout to withdraw from the competition. Jinyu touched Moran and whispered, "How do we get there?" Moran's voice came out muffled from his mask. "Let's go to the highest point and plan the route." Jinyu nodded and led everyone to start climbing the mountain. The Modeo, as tall as a person, was fiercely inserted into the black rock. Jinyu always walked at the front of the team. With a tower-like body, he stood tall and pulled his teammates behind him from time to time. It was not easy to get here, but he didn't complain at all. Yinchu silently took 2 quick steps, took out the warm drinking water in his backpack, and handed it to him without hesitation. Jinyu was stunned at first, then took it with a smile and drank it frantically. The gurgling sound made Yinchu dry his mouth. Under the scorching sun, it was very strenuous to walk for an hour, not to mention climbing a mountain. Everyone was not without complaints. But looking at Jinyu who was leading the way, thinking about Moran who was at the back, and glancing at Yinchu and Elena who were leading the way, they decided to save their energy for climbing the mountain. After walking for more than an hour, the group finally reached the highest point of the Black Rock Mountains. Stepping on the hot land and looking far into the distance, they finally saw a little bit of green at the end of a black rock and gray volcanic ash. Everyone knows the principle of running to the mountain and dying. If there is a possibility of encountering enemies at the end, it will be even more discouraging. But the sticky mouth that can't be opened and the scalded feet that have been numb are telling them, there is no choice, they must move forward. Yinchu patted Jinyu's shoulder and pointed at his Modeo that was as tall as a person. Jinyu thought about the bottle of 60-degree hot water, gritted her teeth, and pushed the handle of the knife towards her. Yinchu grabbed the Modeo and put it on the ground. Then he pulled Elena up and jumped on it. The sword slid down along the smooth black rocks, splashing countless sparks. Jinyu's eyes were red and his eyes were about to burst. His family heirloom sword was used as a skateboard by this woman? It was simply outrageous. But when Elena threw the sword back to the top of the mountain, Jinyu couldn't wait to pull Moran to play with it. The essence of human beings is really good. With a demonstration of Yinchu, the 36 contestants showed their magical powers, and all kinds of weapons were developed for new uses. At this moment, it became everyone's consensus to go the farthest with the least physical strength. Standing at the junction of black rocks and volcanic ash, 36 dusty people looked at each other and smiled at the same time. No matter what will happen in the future, at this moment, they are comrades fighting shoulder to shoulder. A mountain range separated them, and the heat subsided a little. Moran motioned for everyone to take a short break, then exchanged positions with Jinyu and led everyone to continue moving forward. Away from the Black Mountains, the road under our feet was obviously much easier to walk. Even though a lot of volcanic ash would accumulate on our bodies with every step, it did not affect everyone's good mood. After 2 hours of rapid march, the volcanic ash gradually became thinner. When the first blade of grass appeared in front of everyone, everyone's joy was simply beyond words. Yinchu silently took out his water purifier and slowly inserted it into the ground. A minute later, looking at the few water droplets that appeared in the water purifier, Yinchu breathed a sigh of relief. The drinking water problem for 36 people can basically be solved. After testing the water content in the surrounding area to ensure that there would be water to drink in the next period of time, Yin Chu happily retracted his magical powers and caught up with the main force. Song Zifen did not miss this scene. He slowed down his pace, approached Yin Chu, and whispered, "After the game, how about lending me your water purifier to study?" It was just a game, not an important thing. Yin Chu happily agreed. Okay, Yin Chu agreed too readily, which made Song Zifen stunned for a while. Having seen so many conspiracies and tricks, he seemed a little uncomfortable with this sudden kindness. This is not a good habit. Song Zifen took 2 quick steps, came to Yin Chu, and stretched out his right hand. "Let's get to know each other again, Song Zifen." Yin Chu also stretched out his right hand and shook hands with Song Zifen gently. "Yin Chu," Song Zifen smiled heartily, "please take care of me in the next 3 days." Yin Chu laughed. Okay. The two smiled at each other, and when they were chatting heatedly, Jin Yu suddenly turned his head and yelled at them, "Hurry up, what are you dawdling about?" The two hurriedly took a few quick steps and caught up. Elena tapped Yin Chu's forehead and said unhappily that she forgot the old when there was a newcomer. Yin Chu shook her head, thinking that Elena's Chinese might have been taught by a fighting teacher. They walked for another hour while talking and laughing. But all around them, there was nothing but grass. Feeling everyone's physical strength declining and morale low, Moran decisively raised his hand and the team stopped immediately. "Rest where you are and replenish your physical strength." As soon as the voice fell, most people immediately sat on the ground. The sound of drinking water was even more frequent. Yin Chu immediately took out the water purifier, stood in the place where the green grass was the most lush, and then took 2 small sips of drinking water. Moran glanced at the particularly self-conscious Yin Chu, and the corners of his mouth rarely curled up. Seeing the tiny drops of water gathering into the water purifier at a very fast speed, Moran breathed a sigh of relief. If nothing else, at least there is drinking water. At least, it can still be full of water, right? Song Zifen, D. Mao, Elena, Bai Man, step out and go with me to explore the way. Jin Yu, assist Yin Chu in preparing for defense. Chapter 249 Beggar Chicken. Jin Yu frowned and handed the backpack to Moran. "Be careful." Moran patted his shoulder without saying a word, and walked towards the southwest with Song Zifen, D. Mao, Elena, and Bai Man. Jin Yu held his scarred Modeo, stood beside Yin Chu, and asked in a low voice, "What is that thing of yours?" "It's not called a water purifier anymore." Yin Chu shrugged. "It doesn't matter what the name is, what's important is that it can give you safe drinking water." "Jin Yu, will you still chat? You've talked the whole day to death." Jin Yu held his Modeo and stared at Yin Chu without saying a word. The scene was very awkward for a while. Until Yin Chu stretched out a slender jade hand to Jin Yu. "Container." Jin Yu reacted immediately and quickly handed the empty drinking water bottle in his pocket to Yin Chu. "What's the big deal about whether you can chat or not? In this hot weather, it's enough to give you water." After refilling Jin Yu's drinking water and replenishing some for himself, Yin Chu raised the water purifier in his hand and said, "Is there anyone else who is in urgent need of drinking water?" The crowd immediately became agitated. After the team members compared the drinking water resources in their hands, they silently lined up in front of Yin Chu. With a slightly lowered temperature and the appropriate amount of water replenished, physical strength began to slowly increase, but there was no way to relieve mental fatigue. Fortunately, Jin Yu's optical brain lit up soon. Moran said nothing, only sent a coordinate and a short video. At the end of the beautiful grassland like a green carpet, there is a lush green shrub belt. Behind the shrubs, there are neat and uniform trees. Through the video, the roar of the star beast can be faintly heard. Everything shows that the direction they chose is correct. Although they did not find water and food, or even a camp, it was already good news for the Alliance Military Academy, which was in trouble. Yin Chu happily collected his magical power, shared the coordinates with all the team members like computers, and waved his hand. "Everyone, keep the established formation and move towards the goal at a high speed." Jin Yu led the way, and Yin Chu followed the lead. After more than 40 minutes of rapid march, they finally reunited with Moran. Yin Chu glanced at where Moran was and frowned. "The grassland is too flat and open, and it is very easy to be exposed. It is not suitable for camping." Moran nodded. "I know. I have asked Song Zifen to take D. Mao, Elena, Bai Man and others in first. So far, they have not walked out of the bush area. However, they have encountered xylem and bamboo partridges and fragrant leaf grass, Yin Chu curled his lips. Everyone work hard, and dinner will be settled. Jin Yu clapped his hands and laughed. Comrades, everyone work hard, and we will have chicken tonight. Jin Yu's words were interesting, and everyone laughed to show his face. The laughter startled the timid Zillaman bamboo partridges in the nearby bushes, and they ran away with a cluck. When Jin Yu heard the voice, he was delighted. He swung his man-high modeo in the direction of the voice, cutting off half of a bush half a man's height. A Zillaman bamboo partridge lay in the broken branches and leaves, dying with its eyes wide open. Jin Yu hit the target with one strike, but did not stop. He closed his eyes and concentrated for a while, then moved again. A bush fell down, revealing a Zillaman bamboo partridge. Jin Yu strode forward, picked up the two Zillaman bamboo partridges, and put them in front of Yin Chu. Junior sister, how do you eat these chickens? Yin Chu looked at Jin Yu's shining eyes, rolled his eyes, and spoke. Braised chicken, chicken with mushrooms, crispy chicken, spicy chicken, boiled chicken, spicy chicken, Zhangfa eat chicken, 3 cups chicken, honey ginger chicken, apple curry chicken, white cut chicken, hand shredded chicken, salt baked chicken, marinated chicken, cured chicken, sweet and sour chicken, lotus chicken slices, colorful shredded chicken, kung pao chicken, salt baked shredded chicken. Unfortunately, I can't eat any of them today. The more cheerful the names of the dishes were, the faster the turn came. Jin Yu's daydream was not finished, and his saliva was not dried, but his dream was turned upside down by reality. When Jin Yu was furious, the culprit Yin Chu poured him a basin of cold water again. There is no way, there are no kitchen utensils and no raw materials. Jin Yu's dream was completely extinguished, without any residue left. Little ancestor, what can we eat tonight? Yin Chu clicked his tongue. Roasted beggar's chicken. Looking at Yin Chu's attitude of asking for it if he wants it, Jin Yu silently closed his mouth. You can offend anyone, but you can't offend the chef, right? There are too many examples of people who talk nonsense for a while, but end up in the crematorium afterwards. We must learn from this. Learn from this. Hearing that Jin Yu will have beggar's chicken tonight, the other people in the team can't sit still. Watching others eat beggar's chicken while drinking nutritional supplements? Or even staring blankly? This feeling is uncomfortable to think about. It's just a Zillaman bamboo chicken, it's not impossible to catch it. Everyone's eyes, at the same time, cast towards the bushes on the side. Others are making a fuss about the snake, but they are going to make a fuss about the chicken. For a while, there were chickens flying and dogs jumping in the bushes. Moran couldn't stand it anymore, and couldn't help but join in and command the encirclement and annihilation battle at the airport. Soon, Yin Chu was surrounded by Zillaman bamboo chickens. Yin Chu looked at the pile of Zillaman bamboo chickens, and the corners of his mouth twitched. You want to eat chicken, right? Okay. Let's do it bit by bit. Hunting Zillaman bamboo chickens is not a skill, but depilating and gutting them is. Since depilating and gutting are already done, sprinkle some salt and marinate them. What? Tasteful? Then why not find some clean leaves to wrap the chickens and paste some mud? The last shiver left, such as making a fire to roast the chickens, Yin Chu took care of it very consciously. Anyway, roasting one is roasting, and roasting 100 is also roasting. It's just a matter of paying attention to the heat, Yin Chu said. It doesn't exist. So, when Song Zifan brought Di Mao, Elena and Bai Man back, they just caught up with this sumptuous beggar chicken dinner. The beggar chicken was roasted for 3 hours, and the chicken was tender, juicy and not greasy. 2 per person, just right. Not enough? Bear with it. After eating and drinking, and burying the garbage produced by everyone followed Song Zifan's pace and walked towards the depths of the bushes. It is said that you should not enter the forest. But the deep forest is also an excellent hiding place. Unfortunately, the forest in front of us is a coniferous forest. It is okay to find some nuts to eat, but it is simply a delusion to build a tree house. The good skills of Yin Chu learned from the Savage Star region to build a tree house were wasted. Cut down 2 pine trees that 3 people surrounded, clean up the pine needles on the ground, and a camp was leveled out. Although it is a bit simple, it is necessary to take a break after changing shifts and restore energy. Chapter 250 Long-Legged Orb Spider. Yin Chu consciously chose the second half of the night, when people are most sleepy, and gave the opportunity to work the first half of the night to Elena. After walking all day with heavy loads, enduring the double torture of body and mind, Yin Chu wrapped herself in clothes and performed her unique skill for everyone, falling asleep in seconds. When everyone saw this scene, they looked at Elena with a little more sympathy in their eyes. But to everyone's surprise, at 11 o'clock in the evening, Yinchu's light brain rang on time and successfully woke her up. Yinchu patted Elena's shoulder and smiled. "It's your turn." Elena looked at the time and frowned. "There's still an hour left. You should sleep a little longer." Yinchu put his arm around her shoulders and shook his head. "I don't sleep much. 5 or 6 hours of sleep a day is enough for me. But you walked a lot more than me and held on for so long. You must be tired a long time ago. Instead of talking to me about these things, you might as well take the time and rest quickly. If you're really sorry, find me more food tomorrow as a reserve." Yinchu had said this. Elena didn't continue to be hypocritical. She quickly walked to the place where Yinchu had just slept, chose a comfortable position, and closed her eyes. The eyes of the other people sitting around the fire immediately became complicated when they looked at Yinchu. How much sympathy they had for Elena just now, how much envy they had for Elena now. The scene was very awkward for a while. Yinchu couldn't sit still, so she stood up and walked around. When she looked up, she found a few pine cones hanging on a pine tree in the east. Yinchu didn't think twice and grabbed her tang sword to use as a flying knife. After a while, all the pine cones on the surrounding trees became hers. After cracking a large bag of pine cones for a long time, she cracked out a handful of pine nuts, which she couldn't eat immediately. Yinchu thought to herself, why is it so difficult to eat something? The next time she encounters this situation, should she bring a pot instead of a weapon? "This is okay." Moran's smiling voice came over, and Yinchu realized that she accidentally said what was in her heart. "This is a bit embarrassing." Yinchu blushed and explained, "Pine nuts should be more delicious when fried, but we don't have the conditions, so we can only soak them first and then roast them according to the method of roasting beggar chicken. I don't know how they will taste after they come out. If you don't mind, I'll give you some when it's done later, okay?" Moran's voice was faint. Jinyu was very excited. She picked up her modale with great interest and dug the pine cones beside her. "Pine nuts are made from this kind of thing? Then I'll look for it nearby. No matter how small a mosquito leg is, it's meat." These words won the heart of Yinchu. She wrapped the soaked pine nuts with leaves like beggar chicken, buried them in the oil and roasted them. Then, she took Jinyu with her and went to find pine cones. With a modale and Jinyu's height, it was easy to find pine cones. They ate them while searching. After a while, the two came back with half a backpack of pine nuts, feeling satisfied. Before dawn, the comrades on duty in the second half of the night had freshly baked, fragrant pine nuts. This barely counts as breakfast. At dawn, Moran woke up the other half of the students who were sleeping and gave each of them a handful of pine nuts. In this case, everyone was already grateful for a handful of pine nuts, and the look in Yinchu's eyes became much kinder and more friendly. A man who eats someone's food will be grateful, and a man who takes someone's money will be soft-handed. After receiving Yinchu's gift, everyone had fewer complaints about Yinchu's staying behind with the team. Also because of the sumptuous dinner yesterday, everyone agreed with Jinyu, a foodie, leading the team to hunt xylem and bamboo partridges in the bush area. The remaining 4 groups formed a fan shape, spreading outward with the camp as the center. Less than half an hour after setting off, Moran, who was in the middle, suddenly turned his head and looked to the right. In Moran's team, Ji Feng, who was good at using a dagger, quickly knelt on the ground and put his ear to the mud. The sound of dong 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 was transmitted from the ground to Ji Feng's ears. That was some large animal running. Although it was not coming in their direction, Ji Feng's face became more serious. "There are traces of large animals on the right. According to my analysis, it should be the iron pig. Dimayu probably needs support." As soon as the voice fell, Dimayu's connection request came. Moran connected to the optical brain, but did not see Dimayu's figure, but saw a large number of animal footprints on the ground. A large number of animal footprints were found, and the sound of water could be vaguely heard. There should be a water source for animals nearby. "Support is urgently needed." Dimayu's voice was not loud, but very urgent. "Received. Pay attention to concealment," Moran replied, and quickly hung up the video, and issued instructions to Song Zifeng and Elena, "Move closer to the direction of Dimayu's team." Elena's team was next to Moran's team and quickly moved closer. But Song Zifeng's team was on the far left, and it was really a little difficult to move closer. Fortunately, Song Zifeng was very active and finally arrived at the destination half an hour later. The world is so big that there are all kinds of strange things. There are as many interesting souls as there are weird souls in this world. It is not too strange for a 7th-year student in the mecha driving department to dream of becoming an excellent hunter and appearing in Song Zifeng's team and demonstrating the basic qualities of analyzing animal species based on animal footprints is everyone's rare luck. The Zilliman bamboo partridge and iron pig named by Yin Qiu are there. The spiny-tailed lizard and multi-thorn dragon that were not named by Yin Qiu are also there. He even found 2 long-legged orb spiders between the trees. Looking at the direction of the weird soul brother's finger, Demeo's handsome face turned pale in an instant, and the whole person did not move. Is that a spider? Will it jump directly onto my legs and crawl like crazy? Will it jump onto my chest? Face? Is it poisonous? 10,000 thoughts flashed through Demeo's mind, and every thought made him tremble all over. As soon as Elena saw Demeo's cowardly look, she knew that his old problem had come back again. Johnson, can you stop being so cowardly and act like a man? Think about it from another perspective. Whether it's the Zilliman bamboo partridge, the thorny-tailed lizard, the spiny dragon, or the iron pig, they are all points. The long-legged orb spider is also a point. Do you have to be so hard on your own points? Although Elena said she was disgusted, she still took a step forward silently and stood between Demeo and the long-legged orb spider. With Elena between him and the long-legged orb spider, Demeo's expression looked much better. I would rather duel with the iron pig than face that ugly, 8-legged thing. These words were very powerful. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.